Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Tonight is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, and this is the regular governing board meeting for the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board. I hereby call this meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance, and we are going to have Michael Clancy, fifth grader from Barbara Roby, lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we are going to take a moment for silent reflection. Okay, we are going to move on. Ooh, that was loud. To our next item on the agenda, which is recognitions and celebrations. This is going to be done by Executive Director Nuanez.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Superintendent Davidson, fellow cabinet members, and all of our guests here tonight. As we want to go on, we've been continued our celebrations of our A-rated schools, our A-rated districts. It's been a great achievement. We are top of the state. I mean, we are way up there. So tonight we want to present our banners so that they can fly at their schools, or post, should I say. These ones won't be flags, they're canvas. So as I call your teams, come forward and let's grab your banner and take a picture. First up, we will have Principal Michelle Hill from Dreaming Summit. Right, everybody, right? All right, thank you. Congratulations. Next, we have Principal Amanda Acosta and Barbara Roby. Bring the team, bring the team. This was not done by themselves. Okay, squeeze in there. All right. And great. Thank you very much. Do we have the representatives from Belen Soto representing Principal Courtney Frazier and her team? Well, those are nice looking banners. Okay, here we go. Smile. All right, thank you. Congratulations. Next is Principal Tanya Roniger and her team from Corte Sierra. All right, thank you. Congratulations. Next, we have from Litchfield Elementary School, Sabine Hopper and her team. Thank you. And I see we had a, yes, we brought yours too. No, my Mabel pageant, it's over there on the side. We had a late entry. Yes, yes. Principal Leslie Willis from Mabel pageant. All right, there we go. Congratulations, nice. Now, Dr. Kimberly Hill in Palm Valley. With the matching scarf, I've noticed, flying the colors. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, there we go. All right. Nice, thank you. Congratulations, Palm Valley. Next, we have Principal Vanessa Zuniga and the team from Rancho Santa Fe. Are we going to do a cheer, Vanessa? Okay, make sure you get them in the right order. All right, there we go. All right, smile, everybody. All right, nice. Congratulations, Rancho Santa Fe. Next, we have Principal Kara Fox from Scott Libby Elementary School. And the ones that make it happen here, turning in those great scores. Yeah. Okay, smile. There you go. All right, thank you. Congratulations, Scott Libby. Next, we have Principal Luke Janke, Verado Elementary School. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Verado L. Yeah. Next up, we have Principal Meredith Noche and the team from Verado Heritage. Squeeze in there. Remember, if you can't see the camera can't see you. Okay, here we go. Smile. Oh, beautiful smiles. Thank you. Congratulations, Verado Heritage. Um, Also, too, we also want to recognize those that were not able to make it tonight. Those we have Principal Rosenthal from L. Thomas Heck and Jenny Tassin from Wigwam Creek. And now we will move on to Verado Middle School with Anthony Paduano. Peruano. Hey, how you doing? All right, smile. All right, thank you. Congratulations, Verado Middle School. Next. Yes. All right. Next we have from Western Sky, Tammy Garrett. Right, smile. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Western Sky Middle. And last but not least, we have white tanks. Now, white tanks is not eligible for this grading system that gets A-rated schools, but white tanks is an essential part of our collective success. So with that being said, white tanks will fly an A-rated school district because they are a big part of our district. So Kyle Martinez. No, Kyle. No. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and thank you. It's outstanding to be part of a district that has educational excellence just written all over it. We appreciate all the hard work that our leaders do and how they strive to make sure that our students are being the best that they can be. So one more round of applause for all of our schools. Now we're going to move on to the next part of our celebration. I am thrilled to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Barbara Roby Elementary Robotics team for their outstanding debut in their first ever competition. The dedication, teamwork, and innovative spirit displayed by these young minds is truly commendable. As the lead communicator at LESD 79, it just really joys my heart to be able to celebrate these kids and tell their story. Their journey marks a milestone for Barbara Roby Elementary, and it exemplifies the commitment to fostering STEM education. Let's take a quick look.
Robotics Challenge this year. Run the program. This is our robotics club. We have joined the FLL Robotics Challenge this year. And this is their math skills, their problem solving, their ability to work together as a team. One of the other things that FLL has are our core values, where we're not just working together, but we're working together with kindness, showing each other respect, and stepping up to be responsible leaders. And put it down to 62 centimeters. I think it feels really cool that we can make a robot just by grabbing a computer and putting together a program. Whether it's reading or any other subject, they can take these skills that they've learned and apply them across their whole education. The most exciting thing for me was probably the art, and then I really like the building too. What is our next step? Because we're going to have to problem solve on our feet. What if we have an arm on the side? Calculate, 3.4 is rotation. As a teacher and a parent, I think this is amazing because I think that the skills that the students are learning through this program are just vital. These skills will carry them through adulthood.
Hold on that next graphic for just a second. Wow. Barbara Roby Robotics, let's come on up and take a picture. Yay. Come on up, kids.
They want to.
Yeah, yeah. Where's the guy?
Yeah. Hey, I want to give a shout out to this team. I'm a local robotics coach as well in Litchfield Park, and helped see this team get formed and created and successfully compete this last weekend at Metro Tech High School. They showed a lot of resilience in that in the last, I think, couple weeks before they had to kind of do some major mechanical updates to their robot as something had gone wrong. So some of the core values that Amber talked about in the video, they really did show throughout the season, and that's going to stick with them for a long time. Experience teamwork, problem-solving skills, and all of that. So we'd love to see other children, other students experience this at different schools as well. So congratulations.
Deep. We also want to highlight some high school students from the Beat Patrol that aid with our younger students in helping them achieve their goals as well. President Zaidama, do you have any questions for any of the students? Do you have anything?
Did you guys want to share anything with us? I'm going to let you share. Go ahead.
So this was like a task. It really pushed our like teamwork and our like ability to just communicate and be with others. It expanded our friend circle and what we did with others. So yeah, that was really fun.
Can you tell us your name?
My name is Michael Clancy.
Oh, he's the one that led us in the pledge, everyone. So, so thank you very much for sharing that with us. You did great.
Great job, Barbara Roby robotics team. Amazing, amazing work. I mean, how can that not make just your heart smile to see just all the great work that's happening in this district? All right, we have one more. Go ahead. Let me take a look up here on the screen. All right. Now, equally deserving of praise is the Verado Middle School robotics team, whose exceptional performance has earned them a well-deserved spot in the state competition. Now, this accomplishment is a testament to the hard work, perseverance, strategic thinking of the students, mentors, and educators involved. I take great pride in sharing the success stories of our students, and the Verado Middle School robotics team qualification for the state competition is indeed a cause for celebration. These achievements not only showcase the talent within our school district, but also inspire a future generation of innovators and problem solvers. Now, one last little tidbit about Verado Middle School robotics. They've been in the competition twice. This is their second time, and this is the second time that they have qualified for the state competition. So why don't we come on up here and let's take a picture. They're nice and tight. There you go. Squeeze in just a little bit. There you go. All right. Everybody ready? Smile. Go, go gadget. Go robots. There you go, go bots. All right. Congratulations. Do we? Yeah. Anybody? We have somebody to come tell us a little bit about your robots. Oh, wait a minute. I think what's your name again, young man? Landon. Do you remember me, Landon? You were at Scott Libby? Yeah. You remember the video we did? Oh, I just noticed him. Just a quick little tidbit on Landon. I did a story with him when I very first started last year for what was the product you guys were using? The Edison robots. We did a video Edison Corporation out of Australia contacted me after watching their video and asked if they could utilize that on their website for promotion. So that is what a great job these guys are doing.
Okay, so our robot is called Bob. So he's the 3D. Yeah, this is our innovation project for the Lego first FLL tournament. So I first decided on why you should code as an innovation project, but then my friend Connor back there, he decided to come up with more ideas for an innovation project, and we came across a voice controlled robot, and the innovation project didn't have to work, but I decided to take it to the next level. So I decided to first build him and then buy him. So here is the robot. It's pretty much a human at this point. So yeah, he has his movement, his brain. One second. And he has all of his connectors to all these parts. So he works with a phone, but I'm working him out of using a phone into working with an actual speaker. So could I do a little example? Okay. So let's just so it's controlled by a phone, specifically Android. You log in, and you download an app from the App Store. It's called Arduino Blue Control. You open it. Oh, some technical difficulties. So this app isn't made specifically for something like this. So I did have to configure it to work with this specifically. And there were some flukes in the parts that I bought, so the motors cannot go backwards, but I'm going to innovate on that and make it better. So you just press the microphone button and then you say one of your commands. So pick it up. Forward. Stop. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it does not work. Okay, time to kill him.
How amazing is that? Thank you, everybody, for the celebrations this evening. And thank you for attending from all our schools and all of our robotic teams. Yeah. You're all welcome to stay. Don't need to go nowhere. It's going to be fun.
We're going to take like a 2-minute break just to let the people clear out before we get started with the next stuff on our agenda. Okay, are we ready to move on to the business part of our meeting? The next up on the agenda is going to be public requests to speak. We have 2 today. I am going to just read this little disclaimer and then we will get started. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS 38-431.01H, this agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board. Items not listed on the agenda may be brought to the governing board's attention under this section of the agenda. Due to the Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take any action on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, response to the public comment about matters not appearing on the agenda will be limited to individual board members who may ask staff to study the matter, respond to any criticism, or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda for further consideration and decision at a later date. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. Our first speaker is going to be Ella Mardick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ella Mardick, former administrative assistant bus driver for the Litchfield Transportation Department. I have a few things that I want to address. On my resignation form, I noted my reason for resigning was looking for a new challenge. The truth is, I left because of the lack of respect and professionalism amongst the office staff, as well as the lack of support. There were a few employees who encouraged me to file a complaint with the EEOC. Some stated that I was being discriminated for my skin color and age. I did share with the director, Mr. Williams, that I didn't feel like I was a part of the office staff, as he, Dorothy, and Nakia would be in his office with the door shut. I learned that a few times it was about me. I was told in a meeting with Mr. Williams that I had power. I replied, "That's not true." He stated, "Yes, you do." I know that to some folks, knowledge is power. For me, knowledge allows me to help others with questions that they have. Back in the 21-22 school year, Jerry Wiley, a former supervisor, left the department due to lack of support from the district office. There are many employees today who feel they are not supported in the transportation department. A monitor offered more than once to clean spare buses. She has not been given the opportunity to do so. Many times, drivers do not clean the spare bus that is driven and they become very dusty. Monitors were told to come in at 5:30 a.m. This was not a mandate from Mr. Williams. It came from the dispatch office. In a department meeting, Nakia Brown stood up and told everyone they were not to come to me with questions, they were to go to her. Drivers were recently told that they no longer get 30 minutes to pre-trip a bus in the morning. They were told that DPS stated they only need 15 minutes. That is not true. I called DPS Friday, December 8th and was told that was a district decision. I also called several school districts inquiring of the time drivers are allotted for a pre-trip. Most of them give 25 to 30 minutes pre-trip and 10 to 15 minutes post-trip. All drivers are required to pre-trip whatever bus they drive. If their bus is put down in the morning, they must pre-trip another bus. This takes time and can cause the driver to run late to their stops, and it has a domino effect on all the schools they transport students to. The district needs to reevaluate the policy for the time allotted to drivers in the early mornings. I would encourage you to call a former employee, Brady. I do not have his last name. He left due to issues with the router dispatcher. Other folks are leaving due to the disrespect they received from the same person. There are routes with instructions that take the driver through neighborhoods and back and out for no apparent reason, causing the driver to run late. I understand the district is investing in a new routing system. The router needs to prove that, meaning to go over the instructions to make sure that the directions are correct and not expect the driver to make the corrections. I know that not all routes are given out by seniority, as is the policy. A particular driver was given a midday that was not posted for all to see and bid on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Donald. I'm sorry, I cannot read the last name, discussing transportation. Never mind, he is not here. So we are going to move on to the next item of the agenda, which is going to be the adoption of agenda and consideration of consent agenda. I will go through and see if anybody has anything they would like to pull off the consent agenda. Ms. Clymer?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Honak?
I do not.
Ms. Moran?
I have nothing to pull, thank you.
Mr. Owens?
I do not.
Having nothing pulled off, I have nothing pulled off either. I need a motion to pass.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
Mr. Honak?
Abstain.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
I'm a yay, motion passes. Next, we're going to move on to action items. The first item is the discussion and approval of fiscal year 2024 expenditure budget revision number 1. This is going to be by our CFO, Michael Vaughn.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Davidson, colleagues and community, thank you for joining me tonight to discuss the district's first budget revision for fiscal year 2024. Tonight's presentation aligns with the district's strategic plan to increase stakeholder knowledge and understanding of school finance and funding. State statute requires districts to revise their budget by December 15th in certain situations. While the district was not required to revise this December, it's customary for the district to update its budget each December. As a reminder, our M&O budget is set largely by a statutory formula which considers average daily membership as well as many other student characteristic factors. The formula is driven in large part by weighted student count, or the number of full-time equivalent students served by the district, and the student characteristics such as special education status to determine how much funding will be made available to the district to serve its students. For this budget revision, average daily membership estimates were revised down by 172 students, but weighted student count were revised up. This is largely due to an increase in special education needs of our students. On this slide, you can see a comparison of the budget available in M&O and its various sources compared to the adopted budget. The revenue control limit is the funding provided by the funding formula I described on the previous slide. It is the ongoing funding generated to support the district students. The increase in revenue control limit is being driven by the change in weighted student count we previously discussed. The change in carryover was caused by the state's recalculation of the district's exact M&O budget from the prior year. On this budget revision, we've added budget capacity to the special education portion of the budget, primarily in the area of contracted staffing, as well as regular education to balance our budget with the changes. In this revision, 71.7% of the district's M&O budget are in areas that directly support the classroom. This is also why you see a small decline in the percentage of our budget that is salary and benefits. We are seeing an increased reliance on contracted staff as we finish out the year, especially in the special education area. As a reminder, the unrestricted capital outlay fund supports construction, remodels of facilities, equipment, textbooks, and other items that will last the district longer than a year. Similar to M&O, unrestricted capital outlay resources are provided to the district via a statutory formula that considers average daily membership or full-time equivalent students served by the district and a funding amount per student. A restricted capital outlay considers a prior year student count when determining funding, unlike M&O, which considers current year membership. Each year, the state reevaluates and recalculates membership statewide in September. And so in this budget revision, we're updating to the state's final figures for last year's enrollment. Here you can see a comparison of the unrestricted capital outlay budget limit in this budget revision compared to the previous budget. Most of the increase in the fund is being caused by the change in student count caused by the statewide recalculation. The unrestricted capital outlay budget is primarily budgeted for facilities work, furniture, equipment, and vehicles, as well as instructional materials. At this time, I'm available to answer any questions you have on the district's first budget revision for fiscal year 2024. Thank you.
Ms. Clymer, did you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Mr. Honak,
I don't have any questions. Thank you. Good.
Ms. Moran?
I do have one question. CFO Vaughn, you briefly mentioned the contributing factors to the shift in the purchased professional services. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Sure. When I looked closer at it, what I primarily saw was an increase in contracted staffing, specifically around special ed instructional aides, is where I saw the biggest increase over what I had initially anticipated. I think that's largely caused by a struggle to recruit those employees.
And would that be expected with the increased weights given to additional student services?
So you might see an increase in that if the increase in contracting was due to additional one-on-ones that were being driven by the increase in special ed student population. That could very well be, but I'd have to dig in a little bit more to know that for sure.
Okay, no worries. I know special ed is something that we have struggled to fill those positions and that we're looking at some various ways that we can go about doing that more successfully. So totally makes sense. I appreciate this revision presentation.
Mr. Owens?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I also have no questions. That was easy.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we need a motion.
I move to approve the approval of FY 2024 expenditure budget revision number 1 as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
Mr. Honak?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Also a yay, the motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to the consideration and approval for the 2024 Governing Board meeting schedule. This is going to be presented by Dr. Davidson.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this agenda item, one that does require a vote. This is simply us recommending certain dates for the governing board meetings as we move into January of 2024. As you know, this is required for us to publish. Certainly, we can speak to any dates if any board members have questions, but our hope tonight would be that there is a vote to adopt this and allow us to begin moving forward for the establishment of the governing board meeting dates to remain on Tuesday of next year. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to go through and just ask each person if they have any conflicts with these dates or any suggestions that they want to add. We'll start with Mr. Honak. Did you have any conflicts with any of the dates?
No.
Ms. Clymer?
Not at this time, no.
Mr. Owens?
Yeah, I know I have a conflict the January 23rd. And then, yeah, that's it so far that I can see.
Okay, Ms. Moran, did you have any conflicts? And then we'll go back and see if we can fix that one.
I do not have any current conflicts, but what I see presented as I previously brought to your attention in advance of the meeting, I don't see a revision here for the superintendent year-end review, which had happened in June. Do you have some dates that we can talk about for that?
Yeah, so I was gonna bring that up to you for the June one, and I was thinking that we could try to just do it on the 14th at 9 o'clock. I don't see why we have to do it at night. I know in the past we have, but that's up to Dr. Davidson if that would work for you, or the rest of the board if that's a conflict for anybody.
President, as item up from my end, I can certainly be flexible with our team on that one.
Ms. Clymer?
I don't appear to have any conflicts on Friday, June 14th at this time.
Mr. Honak?
No conflicts.
Mr. Owens? I'm coming back to your 23rd, I promise.
Yeah, no morning conflicts on the 14th.
And Ms. Moran?
No, so you are saying Friday, June 14th, 9 a.m.
I'm assuming we'll get all these on our calendar like very soon after we approve this, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so back to the 23rd of January. I'm gonna look to administration and see if there's a date that they think we could recommend. Mr. Owens, if you can't do the 23rd, is there like a chunk of days you can't do, or just that day doesn't work?
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. I am 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. I'm unavailable.
Okay, so you are not available the 23rd?
Not available, correct, yeah.
So after that, you would be okay?
Yes. And it's not even a big deal if, I mean, I can miss one.
The great thing about us doing this now is that we can figure it out and get it moved if we know there's a conflict now. Obviously, we can't predict what's going to happen next year, but for now.
Are there any deadlines pending in January that we could just push it back 1 week to the 30th? Since there's 5 Tuesdays in January. I know it's contract budgeting. I mean, there's a million things going on during these first few months, so I don't know if that date was set specifically, but because there are an extra week or an extra Tuesday, could we just push it 1 week and still be in January?
I'm going to look to our CFO, Michael Vaughn, over there, because I feel like we're going to be in the Michael Vaughn show during that time of year. So
I think we'll be okay.
okay, does that work for you, Mr. Honak?
Perfect.
Mr. Owens, we can do the 30th, right?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Moran?
Yes, the 30th works.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is that everybody's good with this, with the change of the January 23rd date to being January 30th and adding June 14th at 9 a.m. for the executive session for the superintendent's year-end review. if someone would like to make a
Oh,
motion.
Yes, I apologize. I move to approve the 2024 governing board meeting schedule with 2 revisions. Number 1, adding June 14th at 9 a.m. and switching January 23rd to January 30th for the special meeting.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Honak,
Abstain.
Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also yay, the motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to employment contract language and work agreement language for 2024-25.
Good evening, President Zima, members of the board, Superintendent Davidson. We are presenting employment contract language for 24-25 for governing board approval. This year, there were minimal changes with statutes and things like that. So we're seeking your approval for next year.
Okay, I will go through and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Mr. Honak?
I didn't really get a chance to look at it, but if it doesn't require teachers to try to do their best to improve academics, then I'm opposed to it.
Ms. Clymer?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Owens?
I have no questions.
Ms. Moran?
No questions.
I have no questions either. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move that we approve the employment contracts and work agreement language for 24-25 as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Honak?
Nay.
Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Also a yay, the motion passes. We are going to move on to the next item, which is land selection for school 17.
Good evening, President Zeidema, governing board members, Dr. Davidson, admin cabinet, and community members. Tonight, I bring to you the next step in the path of school number 17. We will present to you, myself and Mr. Ensign, the properties of Litchfield that could be used to build school 17 on. We know that they're hosting a study session next week on the possible boundary changes. However, this is a decision that will allow Ms. Benjamin and I to continue our work to bring forth the information for that study session next week. Let's go through the factors that are considered for construction readiness of properties that are currently within our ownership. You can see here, student population. The potential of that growth is important. Walking distance, the land size allowing for grade level configuration, which is a whole nother conversation. The recommendation of acreage by SFOB based off of that grade level configuration, the enrollment capacity in the community it serves. And then of course, is the dirt ready? Do we own it? Do we have promissory notes to it? Are there roads, utilities, those pieces that come with it? Here you could see the recommended acreages based off of SFOB. The 3 categories are elementary school. Then when you get into it, it's the middle or K-8 or junior high schools, and then the high school. Of course, these are what we kept in mind as we look at these properties that are within our control. Here are the 4 properties that we'll be talking about. We'll go through each one. You'll see on the map that we get to, the yellow stars are what designate the properties for us in discussion tonight. The first one we'll talk about is the 20 acres at Thomas Road and 144th Avenue. You can see the advantages and disadvantages to this site. The one that stands out of real concern is that the proximity of it compared to our schools on the east side, which we know are under capacity already. There it is, the large yellow star. As you can see, it's near the Palm Valley, Litchfield L community here. Some pictures that go with it to support of course, the overview of what it could possibly look like as we would drop what is a current floor plan onto it, obviously unknown what that will look like in the future. The next property is 12 acres at the Zanjero Trail South location, as we have two parcels in that community. This one is located at North 189th Avenue in West Missouri. There is potential for growth of the communities there. It could be a walking school. The piece that stands out to the most is the proximity to Belen Soto. And the rest of our district, as you see in those maps, Zanjero Trails is that narrow green strip that goes up. So in location to Belen Soto, and of course the north property that we'll get into in a few minutes, you can see probably a little too close to one of our current schools. There's the overview or blueprint of what it could look like on that property. Gets a little tight with the field space. The current one you could see if you pulled it up on Google Maps. The third one, Thomas Road and 191st Avenue, is probably the one people are most familiar with. It's the lot surrounding Scott Libby and the support services property. There we own quite a bit of land. Of course, it's pretty close to Scott Libby and probably doesn't address the capacity boundary concerns that we currently have. Future, there could be some great things that take place there. Today, it's probably just not the best choice, in my opinion. The fourth one, the Zanjero Trails, which is on North Perryville Road and West Glendale Avenue. Some good advantages is it is the most furthest north property that we own in that area. We know there is major growth going on in those communities or in the future of those communities as based off the demographers report that we took in April and we continue to use to guide boundaries. Other positives to this is the roads, utilities, and all those will be in work shortly as those communities are starting to build out. The one great piece we have with it that we bring to mind here as we look for an approval is returning the South Zanjero Trails property to the Maricopa Water County Commission and allowing them to double up or increase the size of the property here on the north property, reaching it up to almost 20 acres of usable space, as you can see in the picture there. So we will stand for questions prior to our recommendation, unless you want me to give the recommendation and go to questions.
Mr. Honak, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Ms. Clymer?
I honestly think I'd like to hear your recommendation because there's no point in asking questions about all the sites if that's not what you want to say. So I'll let everyone else and then I'll ask my questions if it happens to be on the site that you've recommended.
Mr. Owens, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
Yeah, I have a question. So you just mentioned it, but can you go into a little more detail on the swapping of the properties? That's new information to me. I read the presentation, but it was not clear as to how we were going to get more land available to us at that northern site. So can you tell me more about that?
Gonna go back to it. Quickly quit working. So on this large map here, well, I guess they're all of them. The two stars up in the green area on the left, north of Belen Soto, are the Zanjero Trails. Because we have a promissory note, basically it's in conversation with them due to the size of both of them right now are not extremely large to build a school on. If we allowed them to take the south property back, they would expand our property on the north one, getting us up to that 19-ish, 20 acres. Currently it's 13. And then they have an adjacent 8 to 10 next to it. And they would deem that to us in the same sense to expand and use for a proper school as opposed to trying to squeeze it in on the 13 acres.
Okay, so we would give up any rights to a second school in the Zanjero Trails neighborhood.
Yes, the one that's currently there, that south property, yeah, we would give up the rights to that, correct?
Okay, and it would cost us nothing to do that.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. It costs us nothing.
And that would allow us, if we select this location that's on the screen now with the almost 20 acres, that would allow us enough space to have flexibility to decide on the model school that we want to have on this property. It would not, so all that to say, it would not pigeonhole us into forcing a certain type of campus, whether that's K-8, K-5, or middle school. We could have an option between any of those choices with this 20 acres.
That is correct, Ms. Moran. It would provide the most flexibility for us to continue to have that conversation of what the future school would look like.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
I don't have any questions either, so, I guess.
Yeah, administration recommends the board approve the North and Arrow Trails community property as designated for school location 17 by giving up the south version to combine the top two, the north two, allowing us enough property for that.
Okay, Ms. Clymer, go ahead.
I figured that's what you were going to say, but I just wanted to let you do your thing
Thank you.
first. Okay, so I'd like for you to walk through the disadvantages. That's the most important part right here. And just, I mean, to me, they seem like time sensitive, which won't really matter when the school is built, but I want to hear you say that. So, you know, walking distance, it says homes in fourth quarter of 2024. As we talked last time, this school won't be built until well after 2024. So is that relevant to this conversation in terms of, you know, it'll be walking distance once the school is actually built and whatnot. There'll be enough homes there that transportation can be either, you know, via bus or kids could walk or ride their bike. Okay. And then in terms of road utilities and property size, I realize there's still a lot of construction up there. And so once you get the property size figured out, will the roads or utilities not being in right now pose any challenges to the school being built as quickly as possible?
Ms. Clymer, the only disadvantage to that they're not actually in right now, if something catastrophic happened, they're not exactly installed right now. So we take that really small chance that something goes crazy with the market and they stop building roads and stop putting in the utilities, which they're doing right now, as opposed to other properties where it's there now. So there's no real risk at that point, but that risk is really small, as like I said, their construction is going on right now. So we still list it as a disadvantage because, you know, it's not a guaranteed thing that's.
And what is the drop dead date for us to have that 100%? We're locked in, they're locked in order for us to move forward. I mean, we're opening a school in 2027, whether it's here or someplace else. So what's the drop dead date that we decide they're not building these roads fast enough and we have to go to plan B? What is that day? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that it wouldn't occur that they've stopped into that. It wouldn't be any different than say White Tanks. We did the exact same thing where we had to relocate to another site. So we lost probably about 6 months in the construction phase at that point. So I think that's kind of where you're at.
Okay.
So it opened
Right.
about 6 months later than we would like. We could also take that onus on our own through adjacent ways. Many school districts do that around us where they build roads. Alfred did it when they built Canyon View. Liberty's done it where they built roads, brought utilities in. It's through adjacent ways funding, which is a different funding method that Michael would love to talk to you about in future times. But there's always that opportunity where we could take that burden on, whereas right now the developer is doing that.
Absolutely. No, I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me. I guess my question is that there's a construction timeline that we're going to talk about next, right? You're going to hire an architect and then we're going to move forward. You've built a couple of these. So, you know what that construction timeline looks like, even though I know it's a little different now than it has been in the past. There's a point in time in which those roads have to be built and for us to move forward. What I'm asking is, what is that date? And if they don't, you know, what is our window to make the decision about funding and whether we have to go to a different location or if it's going to push back 6 months? I understand the risk is small, but we also have a pretty severe shortage of space at this moment. So 6 months could be a big deal in 2.5 years. So I'm just asking what our timeline looks like in terms of when we'll be able to make that determination of whether that risk is actually zero.
Disclaimer. So with that adjacent way piece, we could probably settle on them not building that. We would just finish it out. If this was the designation, we would put everything in place within that building timeline. Of course, working with the city as they're building or the county to make sure if they're going to stall out and we are already there in the process, right? If
That change in funding doesn't
Right.
delay the,
Yeah.
okay, understand what you're saying.
in my mind, best case scenario, we would get to going in early July of 2024. And at that point, I don't believe we're going to choose another site and go, hey, let's restart somewhere else, knowing we have that
Yeah,
adjacent
okay,
ways funds and whatnot. So
Okay.
within the next 6 months would be us continuing to watch that and have those conversations with the city and county to make sure we're still progressing forward.
Okay, understood. You nodding your head over here? Yes, you agree with that?
Can I add something?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, so I suspect we'll be chatting a little bit more about adjacent ways, the conversation I'd love to have. In February, right around the same time we talk about this actual sale of the bond, the first sale. That's roughly when we anticipate the county will give us finalized numbers for assessed valuations for next year, because the way adjacent ways funding comes to be is a separate tax rate. And so what I plan to do, knowing that we have this project coming up and it will be a multi-year project, is it gives us some opportunity to spread that tax rate and burden across multiple years. And so regardless of if those roads and utilities are in place, we will likely levy for adjacent ways in the coming year. What may change is the dollar amounts that we're targeting each year, but we'll start to be able to look at that in February, and then that'll be certainly finalized as we move into the 2025 budget, because it'll have to be with tax rates.
Understood. I trust you guys have it covered, but it wouldn't be a governing board meeting if I did not raise Dan about the length of time it takes to build a school. So thank you. That was my only question.
Mr. Honak, did you have any questions about the site they're recommending?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Owens? Any questions about the site they're recommending?
Yeah, no questions. Thank you for the information and why that site makes the most sense.
Ms. Moran?
No additional questions.
I don't either. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move to approve the selection of the Zanjero community site near the corner of Perryville Road and Glendale Avenue as the site for School 17.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Honak? Mr. Honak?
I abstain.
Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. That's very exciting. Okay, next we are going to move on to a request for quote for architect for School 17.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Davidson, colleagues and community, thank you for joining me tonight to discuss and potentially approve the district releasing a request for qualifications for the architect for school number 17. This is the approval to start the procurement process for the architecture work around designing and developing our newest school. As we develop the request for qualifications to be released, we'll incorporate information discussed with the governing board, such as grade level configuration of the school and the land location, which we approved tonight. However, it's important to note that this is not the approval of any of those decisions, simply the approval for the purchasing department to begin work around starting the process for school number 17. I do want to point out that there is a slight typographical error in the subject of this agenda item. The body of the agenda item is correct throughout. We are requesting to approve releasing a request for qualifications, not a request for quote. Request for qualifications is the state mandated procurement process specifically around architectural services. I'm available to answer any questions you might have around the release for request for qualifications for the architectural services for school number 17. Thank you.
First, I apologize. You told me that. I'm so sorry. I will go through and see if anybody has any questions or comments. Mr. Honak,
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Ms. Clymer,
No, thank you.
Mr. Owens,
No, thank you.
Moran.
No questions or comments.
I have none either. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move to approve the request for qualifications for architect for school number 17 as presented.
I will second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Mr. Honak,
I abstain.
Ms. Clymer,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. We are getting closer, everybody. Every little step is so great. Next, we are going to move on to the next item, which is 8th grade culminating event pilot field trip. This is going to be by Dr. Ducey.
There we go. Good evening, President Zainama, governing board members, our admin cabinet, Dr. Davidson, and our community. I'm here tonight to share with you a request for a pilot program for our 8th grade class culminating event. So I'm going to share with you the information in hopes that tonight you approve our request to provide this opportunity for our students. I'd like to also take the opportunity to introduce Dusty Sherman, if you want to come on up and say hello.
Hello. Thank you all. Yep. My name is Dusty Sherman and I work with a company called Project Exploration, and we'll kind of get into that. So super excited. Thank you.
Great. So our request, as I stated before, we request the governing board approve the 8th grade culminating event field trip pilot for the spring of 2024. It's aligned to our strategic plan in the areas of student success, finances, resources, and service. Student success, as it provides a culminating educational opportunity for our 8th grade students that includes the Arizona State standards, as well as our growing graduate alignment to our feeder high school for career exploration. Finance and resources, it utilizes the benefit of Arizona State tax credit laws. And then lastly, service, it provides a quality and very unique experience for our 8th graders for both a culminating academic event and a social opportunity. We're requesting the board to approve an out-of-state and overnight field trip for all students using a vendor called Project Exploration. This trip will be a pilot culminating event opportunity for the 8th grade. We would like to use this experience to determine if other field trips can be expanded for other grades. So it's just the beginning of a great opportunities for lots of kids. It's expanded it's already aligned to Arizona State standards and reinforces what kids have been learning all year based on their grade level. And again, as I said, benefiting our growing graduate program and that career exploration, and finally celebrating those grade level milestones. So we have middle school staff attending the trip, so those folks will be impacted. We have 1,326 8th graders that will be impacted. Of course, our families, our business office staff will also be impacted with tax credits. And then our front office staff will be impacted because they'll help us facilitate the permission slips and payments. So Dusty is going to tell you a little bit about Project Exploration and give you some background about his company and the quality opportunity that he provides schools across Arizona.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so excited to be here tonight for this opportunity. Real quick, let me kind of go into Project Exploration. Project Exploration is a family-owned and operated business. It's been in business for over 47 years. We've specialized in student field trips. The founder of the company was a teacher that started taking students out on these field trips with teachers, and then that turned into stepping away as a teacher and starting this company full-time. Shortly after that, he realized that he didn't like using other bus companies, so he bought his first charter bus. So with Project Exploration, we are a one-stop shop for student travel. We know how difficult it is to get field trips off the ground. Teachers try to get POs for every venue and every location and transportation and everything. And so we're that one-stop shop. And so we do everything. And we can kind of get into a little bit on the itinerary of what all that encompasses. But we do about 350 field trips a year. We work with lots and lots of districts throughout the state, from Tucson and Southern. Southern Arizona, and lots of other districts. We have a slide on that as well. But we try to make this as easy as possible to get these kids outdoor education. We want to get them out of the classroom and have these experiences that really are what they're going to remember as they kind of grow up and go on. So we've been around for a long time, but our goal and the reason we're still in business is we're not just a company that takes the kids and puts on a video and gets there. We are an educational company. Our drivers understand what this trip is. We put a guide on the bus that facilitate everything. Our teachers that come along the trip, we really want them to enjoy the experience as well. But we have a guide that facilitates educational activities on the bus. While we're en route to any of our locations, we're doing games and activities and things that are going to align with the state standards. So we don't just pop in a movie and kind of get to our spot. So everything we do is an educational based. Safety is always the first and foremost for us. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But so safety, education, and those two things, well, the kids are going to have a lot of fun. So yeah, you want to go on to the next one? Or? Yeah, so let's go over the itinerary. The 8th grade trip that we've kind of discussed about doing, we want to offer this trip. So the itinerary, we leave the school very early in the morning. Our charter buses show up. We leave the school at 4:30 in the morning and we head towards LA. When we're on the way, so we'll stop at some gas stations, things like that. The kids can bring snacks. And one of the other things that we want to do is that once we hope this trip gets approved, we will go to the schools, we'll run parent meetings, we'll do all the conversations. We want to take as much work out of the school as possible and make this as easy as possible to get off the ground. So we'll head over to LA. Once we get to LA, we'll have lunch at the farmer's market, which is the Grove there. The kids are always, and let me talk about safety real quick. When we get on the bus, that bus is given a code word. That code word is used for safety, right? The kids are never alone. They're never not in chaperone groups. They're never by themselves. So they're broken off in the buddy system. Then they're broken off into a chaperone group. And so they're never alone by themselves, right? So everywhere we go, there is a chaperone with them. And we give them a code word, and we'll talk about the code word here at the hotel. But that code word's used if someone comes up to your group and asks them, hey, I need to come talk to you, they can say, what's the code word? And so we talk to the kids about that on the trip. So we'll go to LA, we'll go to the farmer's market. The kids will have lunch after the farmer's market. We'll head to the Holocaust Museum, the Museum of Tolerance in LA. The Museum of Tolerance is an amazing opportunity for the kids to really understand the history of the Holocaust. And it's separated into two sections. There's a prejudice section that goes through prejudice and sexism and socialism, racism. They really, really dive deep into some of these topics. And then there's another section that's about the Holocaust. And the kids walk through kind of a cardboard cutout. It's cardboard, but it's actually really well done. But they walk through this narrative of how the Holocaust started and how propaganda started and how free speech started and hate speech started. And it kind of evolved into what we know is to be the Holocaust. And so it's a very, very heavy day, very, very moving, very, very impactful day. So we'll be at the Holocaust Museum. After the Holocaust Museum, we then head to Medieval Times. We have the Medieval Times dinner. The kids have an amazing opportunity to be with their friends and laugh and joke and play. Then we do the Medieval Times dinner. After the Medieval Times dinner, we head back to the hotel. Now the hotel, we have our own staff at the hotel. So before the trip ever leaves, we have a staff. The teachers have already the kids have already been assigned to their rooms. The kids are forwarded to the room. Once we get there, our staff takes the kids. We have male and female staff. They take the kids to their room. When the kids get to the hotel, they'll get a sheet of paper that says who's in their room, what time their wake-up call is, what time we let them out of their room, what room number our night security is in. And we walk them to the room, we check them in their room, we make sure they deadbolt the door from the inside, and then we duct tape the door from the outside. We really do put a strip of duct tape on the outside. We let those kids know that if you open your door, that cracks the tape. We know that you get to call mom and dad and go home. And so I've been doing this for a very long time, and the next day they don't want to miss out. So we really don't have a problem with this, but we are extremely, extremely aware of how important the hotel is and how safe is the most important thing. So in the morning, our night security go by and knock on the door. The kids ask for the code word that we gave them the night before. They will give them the code word. Our night security will check them out of their room, and then they head down to breakfast. The next day, so we get up the next morning, we'll have breakfast at the hotel. The next day, we're going to head to Disneyland. At Disneyland, we're going to do, which is the Disney Imagination Campus. There's a lot of amusement parks that do stuff. Disney does educational workshops better than everyone else by far. And so they get to experience a really, really unique opportunity called the Disney Imagination Campus. There's a little slide on here. There's we want to give them choices of what really kind of gears towards each school. We've had schools that really want to do physics and animation and career paths and things like that. And so there's a lot of different options that they can choose there, but they will be doing that educational workshop. So they'll have a 3-hour workshop while we're at the park. They go backstage and they have these imagination of these campuses and these locations that you can't do unless you do these workshops. And so they'll have this 3-hour workshop. Once that 3-hour workshop's done, they'll be broken back into their chaperone groups, and then we will give them times of, hey, check-ins and things like that, but then they'll have the rest of the day there at the park to kind of be with their friends and experience that. We then check back later that night. We get back to we kind of check in around midnight, we load the bus and we head home and we drive through the night. Now, with us, we own our own charter buses. If you know, there's only so many hours you can drive in a day. A driver technically can drive home through the night. When our company drives through the night, we always put a second driver, just because drive through the night, your safety is the most important thing, right? And so we'll always have, if it's a multiple bus move, we'll have one driver that can help out with both. The other thing is we know those drivers, we know who drives through the night and who does those types of things. So yeah, so then we drive home through the night and we're home early next morning. That's the trip. So these are the workshops. You go ahead. Okay, no, these are the different workshops. Like I said, there's physics workshops, there's career paths. There's all sorts of different workshops there at Disney that they do, and they're phenomenal workshops. We have technology workshops where the kids get to work a computer board and rework a fireworks show, and they get to control the animatronics and the arms and the fireworks. So it's a pretty amazing opportunity. There's leadership workshops and there's career paths. So these are the Disney workshops. Like I said, all of our trips, everything that we do aligns with the standards. They're going to align with the standards in the district. And that's why we wanted to give them the opportunity at the workshops to customize a little bit of what they want. It's kind of that choice to kind of pick if they want to. I've had schools say, hey, we really want to figure out job paths in the future. And so they have a Disney theme park builder where they talk about what it takes to build a theme park and what it takes to all the jobs and things that go into that. So a lot of different options. Okay.
And just a few other notes that Dusty shared with you, some of the itinerary as well. When we leave the school, some of the things we're going to do is work with the schools to have breakfast for the kiddos, to bring a sacked breakfast as well as a sacked lunch. That way at the farmer's market, if they choose to bring money, they can definitely buy things, but we will have food available so no child goes without breakfast or lunch. And then dinner is included in medieval times. And then at Disney, we do have an option. I'm going to go over some prices. We do have an option to add some gift cards for eating at the park. I've done it both ways. I've done this trip with 250 eighth graders for about 8 years. So gift cards have pluses and minuses, and we can talk about that when we talk about the cost, if that's something the board wants us to look at. Kids normally buy stuff versus food. So also another thing I wanted to note is just when Dusty was speaking about the hotel arrangements, the first year as a principal that I took 237, I think, eighth graders at that time on this trip, a little bit less than that because the first year was a little bit less attended because, people are still figuring out what it's about. But I stayed up all night and walked where the kids were. And I can tell you that the hired security does too. So I wanted to make sure that they were legitimately out and about watching the kids, and because that's the part that probably made me the most nervous as a leader in an overnight trip. And then the timeline for completion. So if approved tonight, we would like to schedule some parent nights in January 2024. We might collaborate some schools and have like one event for multiple schools so that we can get as many nights and families can pick from that, kind of the, maybe the east side of our district, the west side, and maybe have one other opportunity that parents can come out and learn about the trip, really explain the tax credit process, which I'll talk about in another slide here. And then our chaperones for this trip will be fingerprint cleared to be able to chaperone. So we need to make sure to explain that process so that families have enough time to get their fingerprints cleared before going on the trip. And then also our scholarship process. For those that need assistance to be able to attend. Because one thing we want to commit to is that no child is left out of this opportunity based on finances. We want to ensure that does not happen. So, I was very successful with that in the past. If students didn't go, it was because they chose not to go, but not because of financial hardship. Permission slips, chaperones will be identified in February, again, to allow them the opportunity. So we'll inform them of the process in January, make them do in February, identify them, make sure that they complete their fingerprint clearance process. Permission slips and payments will be before the trip. We have to have so many weeks before the trip. So we anticipate that being prior to spring break, probably the week prior to spring break or right after spring break. And then we have reserved just to hold our spot pending board approval. Those are the dates. As you can see, we have 6 middle schools, but there's only 5 dates. And the reason why is our 2 K-8s, Bell and Soto and Verado Heritage, will go on the same trip to be able to have the trip from April to May. So, and then definitely Best for Kids. I can speak to this as a mom and as a leader. The alignment to the Arizona standards makes the learning real for our students. We did the physics lab one year. We've done we did all of the different opportunities that were offered. The opportunities most recently are actually even more upgraded. But when we did it, our kids actually designed their own roller coasters, and then they got the ability to go and use physics and applied it in the workshops at Disney, which was pretty incredible. And then also aligning to our growing graduate, it's one of our commitments to help our students do that career exploration to set them up for the academies at Agua Fria. And then the opportunity to combine both an academic experience with that celebration, which, we know it's going to be fun. It's a park hopper pass. Also, I wanted to note for both Disney and California Adventure. So once they do the workshop, then the pass is for both parks. And then also the relationships that kids build, the relationships that faculty builds with the kids is pretty amazing given these opportunities. These are some references of school districts that use project exploration for trips exactly as I've described, with some variations. Everyone customizes their trips a little different. So definitely lots of great districts out there with lots of great results, and I can personally speak to it at my prior experience. The financial impact for students is $595 for all the things that we just talked about. And then for parent, guardian, chaperones, $575. And then there are complimentary staff based on the ratio. So there'll be the staff will be paid for from project exploration to attend based on a ratio of how many kids attend. Now, this is really important that we educate our families. This trip is a tax credit eligible, meaning that if you file and pay Arizona taxes, that you can get back your tax credit dollar for dollar. And so really educating families that using relatives and family members and friends that in my past, students used families, and we got really creative on getting that tax credit information out and got those trips basically for free, because the tax credit came back to those families. They can also use tax credit for both tax year 2023 and 2024 based on when the event is and when they're paying. And then again, family night in January will provide parents with the tax credit information to educate them, as well as provide information on Parent Square and the website for families that can't attend, making sure that we push that out. In the past, I've done videos to really capture to make sure that the families don't miss a beat if they can't come. And then the scholarship process, this is something that still needs to be built. I haven't built all the details yet because I wanted to wait first to make sure that this is approved by the board. But we will follow a set process and criteria for scholarships, and it will be determined by a panel. And so we'll have an application process that we use across the board. We will use the funding sources of donations, other tax credits by other families, and fundraising. And that will be across the board and shared with all middle schools equally, and then used to allocate the scholarships for families in need. And then, as I stated before, the chaperones will be fingerprinted and cleared to be able to attend. It is important to note, because chaperones paying for their trip, it's not tax credit eligible because it is not their culminating event. All right. And any questions?
Mr. Honak, did you have any questions about this?
No, thank you.
Ms. Clymer?
I have a few questions. First, I think this is an amazing opportunity. I think it's wonderful. I mean, I think the educational component speaks to itself, but to be able to celebrate that milestone with your friends and sort of begin their more independent educational journey in high school and be able to sort of do this on your own, potentially without a parent unless they decide to chaperone, but, do that. So a couple of things just so that I understand, if in terms of chaperones, we will have when you say staff and teachers, do you mean Litchfield teachers or do you mean from Project Exploration or both?
Actually, all of the above. So,
Okay.
so staff chaperones, the way that we run it is the staff do not have a set group of students. They are floaters. And also if students need an opportunity for a little breath, then staff are available, to take those kiddos with them. So there's a certain amount of staff that are funded through Project Exploration. They give us so many basically complimentary staff to attend from Litchfield.
Litchfield
And then,
staff, okay.
yes, and then, Project Exploration also has staff, which includes I forgot what you called it now, a tour guide on every bus, as well as the security staff. And then in the evening, it'll be, of course, the bus drivers, but also in the evening, the ride back, there's 2 drivers.
Okay, perfect. Understood. In terms of parent chaperone, they pay separately, which I totally understand. Do they sleep separately from their children? So they're not in the room with other people's children?
They are not. They have a separate room. The chaperones, we set them in separate rooms, and we typically ask them to pair up together.
Sure.
We have had parents in the past that have made special requests not to, and we've worked that out.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I know we'll be doubling up kiddos and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure. I don't know these dates off the top of my head, but are these, what happens to the students that for some reason choose not to go or are not able to attend the trip? Is this a school day, and what are the educational plans for them when the rest of their peers are there?
Yeah, absolutely. These are Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays.
Okay.
So we'll be leaving early in the morning on Sunday, correct? Yeah, Sunday morning. And then we'll all day Monday be at the park, right? And then, so Sunday will be the day that we leave. We go to a farmer's market. We go to the Holocaust Museum, the day that we go to medieval times. And then the morning on Monday is the day we go to the park, which is a great day to attend the park because it is one of the lower attended days. And then we'll head back. So then they'll be back on Tuesday morning. So for students that choose not to attend, I've done a lot of different things in my past. So I'll work with principals to, because there's teachers, we want to make sure that we give teachers the choice of going because this is a commitment.
Yeah.
And sometimes family teachers they just can't leave their own family overnight. So we do allow teachers to choose, and then the teachers that aren't choosing, then will stay and provide an educational opportunity for the kids that aren't going.
Okay.
And we'll do that case by case, depending on how many kids don't attend.
That
I
makes
will
sense.
say my first year doing this, my numbers are probably a little inflated from 232. I think it was a lot less than that. Just your first year doing something like this, you don't have as great of attendance at the beginning, but by the end of the 3rd year that we did this, we had like 89%, I think, of all of our students attended, and that 10%, it wasn't because of finances. It was their choice. They didn't feel comfortable for their child to travel out of state or,
Understood.
for various reasons. So
Yeah, understand. And what happens on Tuesday? Do kids go to school or go home? I mean,
they're going to be on a bus all night. So I think we'll probably have to figure that part out. Like, they can come to school. We definitely don't want to turn any child away. We would definitely be at school. The teachers we'd have to work that part out with half days and things like that. So
yeah,
this part will be a little new to me because we've always planned trips, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so we've gotten home on a Saturday. So this is a little different. And the reason why we picked Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is it is less cost. Disney costs us less money for the park on that day. So that is a detail that will need to be worked out.
Yeah, I trust you guys will work it out. I just didn't know if just from absences and things like that, I just want to, assure parents that their kids, if they I'm sure would want to go home and get some
they will be
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they will be very tired.
Preteens are grumpy on a good day. So with no sleep on a bus with their friends. Okay. Last, not a question, but just a comment. I appreciate you keep mentioning that you don't want finances to be a barrier to any student. I think for me, that's the largest priority here. I think this is an amazing opportunity, but we also know that, our school district covers many different students and family situations. So whether it be tax credit or other scholarship opportunities, I really just want to make sure that we communicate very honestly and openly with parents that this opportunity is truly for all. And whether, we work with you individually or other family members to help you find a way to go there. I want to make sure that they do truly understand that we do intend this to be for everyone. You know, you look at that number and you think, gosh, it's almost $600. It looks high, but to your point, there's ways to get that down, you know, pretty quickly, but it's just a matter of educating them on what those ways are and making sure that they understand that is an actual priority for us, that everyone
agree.
goes. So
We are committed to that.
yeah, thank you very much.
Mr.
And
Owens?
Can I just
Oh,
make
sorry,
one
go
more
ahead.
comment
Just
just
a
about
second,
that?
Mr.
Because I
Owens.
think this is important, is just because I spent a lot of time, many years doing this process, and Dusty as well, his experience, what we find with students that, families that may, finances are maybe a struggle for them, is they actually welcome this opportunity because their children would not have this opportunity to travel, because they simply can't manage a whole family to do things like this. So
Yeah,
there was
absolutely.
students that had never been, never been to Disneyland, their whole family, even their parents had never been to Disneyland. Some of our other trips that we did together included going to the beach and doing a river float around the Colorado River, around Horseshoe Bend. Never been in the river, the Colorado River, never seen an ocean, so to see these kids' face light up with an opportunity that would never have been possible if we wouldn't have provided it for them. So it's really powerful. And I don't know if you want to comment about it.
And that's the same. Okay. I'd like to second that. It's something that Disney is the most expensive trip we have because it's Disney, right? But it is the one trip that we found that families kind of look forward to as a tradition. They know that in 8th grade, their kid's going to get to go to Disneyland. And this has really been, it was a worry for us because as Disney went up, the ticket went up and you worry about that tax credit and that number. But like I said, it's been the one trip that people seem to really accept that number price.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
all
kids
the
this age,
trips,
it's great. It's like I said, it allows them a little bit of freedom and, can kind of take part in that as a group, but also get to kind of do their own thing. And it's extremely fun and celebratory. So yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, did you have questions about this?
No, I don't have any questions. I do I do think this is awesome. I remember my in 5th grade we got to go to SeaWorld, and so did something similar. We didn't stay in a hotel, we slept on the floor of a church, but it seems like they've stepped it up a little bit. But I'm excited for the kids, and like it's been mentioned, there was a lot of kids that I went to school with who first time out of state, first time getting to do those things that wouldn't have otherwise been provided by their family. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Ms. Moran?
I agree. I think this sounds like an amazing opportunity for our 8th graders. Specifically, this group of 8th graders were without field trips that were impacted by the pandemic for quite a while. So I hope that this pilot is successful and that we can continue to offer this as something for our younger students to look forward to in 8th grade. I do share Board Member Clymer's concern about the financial piece. Having had students at Millennium High School who are in the band, who have done similar trips to this, as well as annual band camp fees. My children's have had friends and other bandmates who were not able to attend some of these optional trips. I understand and hear what you're saying, Dr. Doozy, about your commitment to making sure that the finances are not an issue. And I applaud that and appreciate that. And I hope that is what works out. I think as a suggestion, I know you're going to work through all the details, but as a suggestion, one thing that I think might work well with our families is a pay it forward type tax credit, because obviously tax credit for married filing jointly is $400. The cost of the trip is $595. If we can get some 6th grade parents and 7th grade parents to pay that forward for the current 8th grade students, that might be a great way to know that that would get, paid back to them through the scholarship process, potentially when their student is in the 8th grade. So I look forward to hearing more of the details behind it, but I think this is an amazing opportunity, and I'm so glad that you brought it to us because it's thinking outside the box and it's giving our students some real incentives to look forward to as well, and a great celebration to the end of their 8th grade year.
Thank you. Thank you for that idea as well.
I do not have any questions either. I am very excited to have something like this come forward and for our students to be able to have this opportunity, because it's nothing that we've done ever. And it's going to be a great opportunity for students, like all of them said, who may have never traveled before, and now they're going to get to do that for the first time and get to see Disneyland. And how cool is that with their friends, right? I also concerned about the money, and I commit to help you guys, whatever you need from any of us to help with making sure that money is not the reason that a student doesn't go, because that is really important to me too. My heart is with our Title I schools, definitely, and that's going to be a tight amount of money. But I do agree that even parents with that have lower incomes tend to find a way for this kind of thing to happen. And so we just got to make sure we get the messaging out that we are here to help them in any ways that we can. But I'm really appreciative that you brought this to us. And I'm excited to see what this can launch off to for other opportunities for some of our other students as well.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea. I mean, we have amazing community partnerships. We have faith-based partnerships. We have businesses. We have a lot of folks, vendors that we've worked with for many years that, might be willing to sponsor a child or something like that as well. So it seems like we have a lot of resources at a district level that may be able to help us as we proceed with this.
Yeah. And we've had we've worked with a lot of districts, and we've had, little things that don't make sense, but like glass companies come forward and they've, instead of donating the money, they donate to the school, and they donate, we can get really creative on those things. And we've done a lot of these type of things with a lot of districts, because the truth is we didn't get in this business to leave kids at home. So we love this opportunity. We love changing their lives. And so we have a lot of ideas as well. So perfect. Thank you.
Side note, I think we're going to see like a super jump in our tax credit money now, which is really exciting.
And that's why it impacts the business office.
Right. It's a good impact.
Yes,
It is. So, okay. If there's no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I will happily move to approve our 8th grade culminating event pilot field trip as presented.
Second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. Mr. Honak.
Aye.
Ms. Clymer.
Yay.
Mr. Owens.
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. That's very exciting. And I'm going to have us take a 2-minute break. We'll come right back to move on to the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just waiting for Mr. Honak to come back. Okay, are our online people ready to go?
Ready?
Yes.
Awesome. So then we are going to get started. We're still, okay, good, perfect. We are going to move on to the next set of agenda items, which is going to be discussion items. The first one is going to be Superintendent Performance Objective number 1, Student Achievement. This is going to be by Dr. Davidson and Mr. Owen as well.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, community, and guests. We have an opportunity tonight, and I think you saw it in action, kind of highlighted by the outcomes of our students, but we have the opportunity tonight to just share some of the top happenings as it relates to Litchfield Elementary School District student achievement data. On behalf of Mr. Owen and I, we'd like to just highlight the department's mission and vision, and that is the Assessment and Accountability Department, that our goal is to provide the highest quality district assessments, data, and academic achievement information to all staff. So please note that we're sharing with our board and community tonight, but Mr. Owen has been out in schools and is working side by side our staff to not just know the data, but how to use it to inform their instruction. So we're accomplishing this by aligning our efforts to state standards and expectations, making certain that our data is of quality and that we're providing professional development using that information, and that also we are delivering the most informative measures of student academic growth and proficiency, which you'll see very soon. As always, in our current strategic plan, you can see that using of data ties into what we believe, academic excellence, but really data as a whole applies to every single column of our current strategic plan. With that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Owen and join you in a few slides. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, thank you so much. What we'd like to do is present a couple of different measures of proficiency and student progress as we look at it here in the district. The first one is just a comparison over the last 4 years of student proficiency by grade and by subject. This is a very common presentation that we look at. The way to read this is, let's say, the 3rd grade math. We can say that 3rd graders in 2023 scored significantly higher than 3rd graders in 2022. 9 percentage point difference there if you're looking at that section of this chart. But this looks across groups of students. Another way we could look at this is to look at it by cohort. I'll just explain how to read this. I put this together by looking at the grade level at the bottom are current grade levels for students. Then just above that in the years, and then above that we see 2 different proficiency bars. One is labeled cohort, one is labeled all. And what we're doing is comparing the current grade levels cohort to all students in that grade in that year. So this is ELA. If I'm looking at the far left side, I see current 5th graders in 3rd grade in 2022. The cohort percent proficient, these are the same students now, is at 50%. Then in 4th grade in 2023, the cohort percentage is at 55%. And then compared to all students in that grade level in that year in that subject. So what we can see is a bit of consistency from year to year in the cohort. But what I noticed when I look at this, and it's a bit more pronounced when we look at math in just a second, is that the cohort percent proficient is higher than the all students. And we're looking, it depends on how many years here, but about 60 to 70% of students are in the cohort. So they match year to year to year. So when you look at the cohort from 1 year to the next year to the next year bar, those are the same students in each of the 3 years. Of course, that difference is a little more pronounced in math. We can see cohort proficiency rates are higher than all students when you include students that are not in that cohort.
I just missed something. Can you explain what the cohort is?
Sure, they're the same students from one year to the next. So when I look at the grade level, and I'll just leave math up here for a second. Grade level is grade 5. Those are current 5th graders. And then when you look at each of the years, those are the proficiency rates in 3rd grade in 2022, and that cohort bar, and in 4th grade in 2023.
Madam President, members of the board, one of the things, if you recall, when we met with Mr. Joel early in the fall here, we talked about examining the cohorts to see how are kids performing year over year, that same group of students. So that's what Mr. Owen and I worked on. And I think what the data shows it is that the longer you're with this, the greater success you'll have. And I think that's just something I wanted to highlight, that and for those families that are out there, we appreciate that, because that simply just helps us do what we did already this evening, celebrate our student success.
Now, the nuance to looking at data like this is that they are advancing grade levels. So standards will change from grade to grade, depending on which subject and which grades they're advancing. And while you're not looking at different cohort effects, you can see, for example, if I look in math here, current 7th graders, their proficiency rate in 4th grade in 2021, and then jumped significantly 5th grade in 2022. Now, the proficiency rate in 5th grade in math in the district increased significantly that year. And when you look across grade levels and across different tests, sometimes you might see some sort of a test effect. That's sort of the only caution that I keep in mind when I look across grade levels to compare from one grade to the next grade to the next grade.
So just to ask a quick question, to use that same example, current 7th graders, they jumped from 41%, let's say staying on this math chart, 41% to 64% in 2022. Then that same group, according to this, if I'm reading it right, went down to 50% in 2023. So they went up, down. I mean, they're going up and down, but I'm saying that's the same group of kids. And then 2023. So we're not actually seeing, I mean, they're in 7th grade right now, so we're not seeing their proficiency this year because they haven't taken the test yet. So this is just their 3 prior years.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. And those were high scores that year in 5th grade.
Okay.
Those are a couple of different ways that we look at proficiency and compare them from year to year across cohorts or within a cohort. I want to look at a couple of different ways we examine student progress or student growth. One of the ways we do this every year. We compare student movement across proficiency levels from year to year on the state test. So I run this for the principals every year. We do this by district grade and subject, school grade and subject, and then even by teacher and subject. So the way to read this is we're looking at percentages of students that either stay or move across categories. In rows, what you have is the 2022 proficiency level. And in columns, you have the 2023 proficiency level. And in the cells, you have the percentage of students that either stayed or moved. So when I see minimally proficient in 2022 in the row on top, and minimally proficient in 2023 in the column on the far left, that cell, 71.4% of students, that means that 71.4% of students were minimally proficient in 22, stayed minimally proficient in 2023. And we also look at the higher end too, highly proficient, 68.2% of students were highly proficient and remained highly proficient. So what we want to see when we look at these charts is movement out of the lower levels of proficiency and stability in the higher levels of proficiency. And so when we look at some of the areas of strength, you can see the grades in math, grades 4 to 5, 3 to 4, 6 to 7, what we're looking at is 57% of students from 4th to 5th grade moved out of minimally proficient. These are the areas of strengths that we'd be looking for. And 83% of students remained proficient or highly proficient from 5th to 3rd to 4th and 6th to 7th. And then likewise in ELA, we're looking for those same patterns. And of course, there are also areas of focus. So math, we see an area of focus last year from 5th to 6th grade. 45% of students fell below highly proficient after scoring highly proficient from 5th to 6th in math, and 85% from 6th to 7th remained minimally proficient. So we would pull those out as areas of focus. You can see ELA, there's a couple there also. And this is district-wide from 22 to 23. Another way we look at growth is to look at student growth percentiles. This is coming from the growth component of the state accountability letter grade formula. This is 50% of the outcome of that formula. And what we're looking for are percentages of students that fall into these growth groupings. Students go into a growth grouping by receiving a percentile rank based on how they rank relative to their peer groups in terms of progress from one year to the next. Low growth, that means those students are in the bottom third of their peer group. Average growth, they're in the middle. High growth, they're in the top third of the peer group. And the weights here just are the weights that come out of the in the accountability system. But what we're looking for, high percentages of students in that high growth group and average to high growth group, and lower percentages of students in that low growth group. So we can see overall 73% showed average or high growth in math and ELA combined. 42% of minimally proficient students in math showed high growth. 40% of minimally in ELA showed high growth. And 68% of EL students demonstrated average or high growth in both math and ELA combined. Of course, we look at areas of focus too. Here was a couple. Anything above 33% in the low growth category, I'm immediately drawn to. So you see students with disabilities, 37% fell in the low growth category, bottom third of the peer group statewide.
Should we pause, Mr. Honak?
And 35% of EL students showed low growth in math. So there's some ways we like to look at and analyze student proficiency, student progress. Coming up in January, so by the end of January, we will have a mid-year data point in math and reading in grades 2 through 8. What I'm really excited about is that this will be the same test the students took in the fall. This will be the first time that we've been able to have two comparable data points in the middle of the school year from the fall to the winter, which is going to open up a lot of possibilities for analysis. Standards comparisons, proficiency comparisons, percent correct comparisons to look at progress throughout the school year. So with that, I would like to turn it back over to Dr.
All right, governing board members, we're going to take a look now on just how we compare across the state from a proficiency perspective. We're going to start with ELA, and certainly when you look at the graphs, you can see that LESD 79 compares very well to the state as it relates to proficiency. With that said, I just want to highlight, and our team knows this, and I think you can see that in our actions. We know we're in a continuous state of improvement, that we're striving to do better in our systems that are in place, and the systems that we reinforce and continue to modify will support future growth and proficiency. But I think it's very clear that we're performing well compared to the state. We also recognize there's areas that we can do better, and Mr. Owen highlighted that a little bit as it relates to our students with disabilities, some of our ELL students, and some of our Hispanic learners. So we are making some efforts to support those children. You'll find that in mathematics as well. Categories that certainly stand out to me. Let me pull that data here. Our Hispanic learners, again, our African-American subgroup of learners, Those are the two that stood out as needing some additional support. And it's interesting because we don't necessarily have specific efforts tied to nationality or race, but we recognize that there may be some factors that are keeping our students from performing as high as we would want them to be. So those are things we look at the campus level, and many of you have had a chance to see our PLC processes at work. Our teachers examine this, and I think as Mr. Owen shared, when they have data that's relevant, that they're getting ready to have again here very soon, this conversation around students, in particular students, comes to life. And it's not just a number at that point. We're talking about a student at their particular performance. So we're excited about seeing how the future looks on behalf of student performance. With that said, I'm going to have Mr. Owen speak a little bit about our subgroups and those that we compete against.
So at the end of October, the state published the statewide data file for AASA, and that has allowed us to make comparisons with Litchfield to state averages and also Litchfield to other districts. So there are three main groups of districts I like to compare Litchfield's proficiency to. One of them is our peer group as defined by the Auditor General's office. That is 4 total districts, including Litchfield. That's Madison, Kyrene, and Liberty. You can see ELA here is the first 4 rows at the top, math, the second set of 4 rows. These are rank ordered descending high to low in terms of proficiency. I also like to run a West Valley comparison. This first slide is ELA, and again, rank ordered by proficiency. This is overall across all grade levels. And this next slide is how math proficiency compares among the West Valley districts. And then I like to compare to just the highest scoring districts in the state. I had to do something a little differently this year because the way that the state published the data file is significantly different from the way that they did last year. So last year, what we were able to do was look by grade band. If you remember, we compared these 3 different groups of districts in the 3-5 grade band and the 6-8 grade band. But in order to do that, because the state doesn't publish it like that, what I had to do is go in and create my own proficiency rates by grade band by basically multiplying number tested by percent proficient for each grade in each subject and then re-aggregating. The way that they published it this year, in an effort to be able to obscure more student data so that they don't violate FERPA, was they tried to publish as many proficiency rates as possible, but prohibit us from doing basically what I did, which would be to calculate how many students fell into one of the proficiency categories. So they obscured the number tested in a lot of cases so that I couldn't go and recalculate, say, percent minimally proficient, and it's 2 students in a grade subject at a school, which could potentially identify a single student, which would be a FERPA violation. So what I did was I took the districts that we were able to compare to last year, which came out to 18 districts, and I compared us to those same 18 districts, but with overall proficiency, because I was unable to get grade level proficiency rates and re-aggregate. This is what it looks like this year for ELA compared to the top 18 districts last year out of 271 total districts. And just compared to when we re-ranked last year based on overall percent proficient, not re-aggregating by grade band, Litchfield ranked 16th last year and 15th this year. Or sorry, 14th this year. So moved up 1 ranking in math and remained at 16th out of the top 18 in the state. So then what I did was went ahead and just looked at all of the districts and took the highest scoring, and I re-aggregated again last year. They published a significant number more districts this year just because they're trying to maximize the percent proficient publication without giving away numbers of students and categories. So you can see there are 32 more districts that were reported this year in ELA and 29 more in math, but ranked about the same among all districts. 88th percentile last year, 87th this year in ELA, and the 89th in both years in math. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Superintendent Davis.
All right. Thank you again, governing board members. These next few slides are some of the easiest ones because the things we've just been highlighting and sharing and celebrating our 8th ref labels. Mr. Owen spoke to this briefly about the percentage attributed to growth of our particular label. So you can see it's at 50%. We thought it'd be wise just so that everybody can see how our school labels are put together, our grades, proficiency at 30%, the growth of our EL students at 10%, and then of course, acceleration and readiness at 10%. Our labels are based on the rubric below at the bottom there, or the scale, and you can see the percentages accordingly. With that said, here is a complete listing of our grades and how those were put in place. One of the things that I just wanted to highlight is L. Thomas Heck. They are our only B-rated school, but with that said, their label did increase from a C, and they were just a mere 3 points away from also achieving an A. So proud of their efforts, and on behalf of the entire district, very proud of the work that our teams have done, and really the growth that they've made. If you I know Mr. Owen will come up here next and highlight some of those key areas. So thank you.
So here are some of the highlights that we pulled out of those, of the accountability ratings statewide. So I took a subset of the schools that were evaluated. There are some schools that are not evaluated on a 100-point scale in the state. That's because an end count didn't quite meet the minimum of 11, more than 10. So this takes all schools, traditional K-8 model, 100-point scales. And that's a total of 869 schools. So some highlights: 2 schools received maximum possible 50 growth points in our district. That's Bravo Roby and Verrado Elementary. 2 schools rank in the top 5% of all of those schools in the state in this sample: Verrado Elementary and Western Sky. 9 of our 15 received maximum 10 EL points. That's for proficiency and growth on the English language proficiency assessment. 10 schools received a total of 90 points or more, and a total of 15 received bonus points for science proficiency, which is at or above state average proficiency on AZSI. And also this year, for the first time since 2014, the state released to the public LEA letter grades. Basically, it's just a standard GPA calculation. A is 4 points, B is 3 points, C is 2 points, D is 1. And they aggregate those and average them for all the schools in the district that were evaluated. Then they round up to the nearest whole number. So 3.5 GPA and above is an A district. Litchfield did receive an A rating, and the GPA actually ranks, well, tied for second highest in the state with Vail Unified District. And this is LEA comparisons. The LEA had to have more than one school evaluated.
All right, thank you. And we'll finish up here. So with all that said, you're probably wondering, okay, Carter, what does that all mean? So we'll summarize some next steps of importance. First and foremost, and you'll hear about it tonight, finalizing the profile of our Litchfield learner. What is it that we expect and then our community expects from our students as they leave our district? That'll tie nicely into the development of a strategic plan, which you'll hear very soon about. We're going to continue to develop consistencies across our schools with the implementation of the PLC process. We're also going to continue to use those data points that we've talked about tonight and that Mr. Run will have available here in the next few weeks to support student learning. And lastly, continue to partner with our folks out there, as you even saw today with our robotics teams. And Ms. Clammer, you spoke to that. There are people out there that do support our work and come right alongside us to get the results that we have achieved. So with that said, Mr. Owen and I will stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Honak, did you have any questions?
Yes, about the core cohort thing. If I'm understanding, if a family was in the district and didn't move, then their children would more than likely continue grade after grade after grade for 4 years. So that would qualify them, excuse me, to be in the cohort. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and then let's just say somebody that's at Luke Air Force Base and they're there and transferred in and out and whatever, they wouldn't be in a cohort. So isn't it fair to say that, I mean, my first impression was that the cohort would do better simply because there's just more stability in the family. Not that they're bad parents because they have to move, but kids changing to schools and, you know, friends and, you know, familiarity. I mean, that's detrimental to education, correct?
Yeah, that could definitely be a key factor, sure.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess I'm looking. No, I think that's pretty good. Everything is understandable. They keep changing the name, right? The AAAS. I guess they renamed it a while ago, right? The AASA. But same thing. The metrics are identical, correct?
Same state standards, correct.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I know what the question was. And so this data for 2023, when were those tests given to the kids? Were they in the spring?
Yes, April of 2023.
Okay, so this is kind of, well, it's 6 months ago, roughly speaking, a little more.
9, 8, yeah.
8 months. Okay, so it's a little bit. So it's somewhat pre-Carter Davidson era.
100%, sir. And certainly, I believe it might have been last meeting or two where we highlighted our school labels, Mr. Honak, and definitely had to give some shout outs to the team that was here prior to me and the work that they did. But yes, sir, that state level data is certainly prior to my time.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir. Sirs.
Ms. Clymer.
I don't have any specific questions. Thank you, though, for the data and the information. Brian, you've trained us well. We've seen this enough times now that we know we got all our initial questions out over the last several years. So it's really good information. I think for me, Carter, as you mentioned, you know, that sort of the last step in your presentation is, what does this all mean, right? What are we actually going to do with this information? I know this is shared at the staff level, you know, for every campus, every teacher through the PLC process. I mean, I know there's a sort of a strategic communication pattern of all of these things so that not only are we getting better, you know, you getting better as administrators, but teachers are able to, you know, utilize this data. So I guess the challenge for me going forward is now that you are officially on the clock this year with, you know, not only the benchmarks and things we do as a district, but the state standards this year, is knowing the challenges that we have coming up in terms of staffing and budget and things like that. You know, we see some impressive gains. We see certainly some areas of focus that we want to concentrate on. How do you maintain that, you know, momentum, knowing that we have some real challenges ahead of us, because, you know, now we've seen that the progress can be made when the resources are available. So now the challenge is, you know, if we have to pull back on resources, how do we continue to manage that process to where we can still have the same gains even when we have to modify those resources?
I can't help but to smile because there's a lot of great things that you saw tonight in the data. We know there's some challenges in front of us. the thing that I've asked our team over here beside me is to really be customer service driven and from to be nothing but support to our campuses, because this data that you see is supported by our leaders on the side here. We're not the ones at the school site doing the hard work. And so from a group of individuals geared towards providing support and customer service, Ms. Clymer, our goal is to continue to remove barriers when we see them, to ensure that staff, our teachers, our principals have what they need, and that we have the ability to give. Because as you mentioned, we know with budget cuts, there may be some decisions that are made that aren't ideal, but at the same token, if we remain strong with our systems that are in place, our students will still be able to succeed, and at high levels. Even just the vote of confidence tonight on behalf of that promotional opportunity for our 8th graders, some incentives for our kids to keep working hard in the classrooms. I think those type of things, they go a long way. I think lastly, I would just say making certain that we are strategic in our efforts by the creation of a strategic plan that is not tying us to a certain level of student success, but ensuring that all of our departments are moving in the right direction to get that outcome of that Litchfield learner that we want. So that's just a summary I can give. It's going to be hard, but I hope for our principals out there who are doing that work day in and out with their staff, that they see us providing that continual support and encouragement, so we don't get in their way and that they can still keep doing that good work.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Owens?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, thank you so much for the data and the information contained in this presentation. As Board Member Clymer said, we've seen this before. I do appreciate the new way of slicing and dicing by cohort. That is something that we've asked to see and something that we would like to continue to see going forward, to be able to measure the success of our students as they move through LESD and their educational journey. I would like to also address the next steps piece. And kind of piggyback off of what Board Member Clymer said. So for me, one of the things that I think has been missing in the translation of data into usable information by the board and to make informed decisions is, again, that kind of analysis of what is the data really telling us. So for example, to get really specific, we know in the spring, we are going to have to make decisions on math specialists. Are we going to be able to continue them? How many are we going to be able to continue with? And where do we need those the most? And so in the past, we have not been presented a presentation that has the data that says this supports this recommendation. It's been more of either equitable, everyone gets the same thing, or we're going to use some of the data, but then we're going to reanalyze it a different way when we get more information and maybe change those recommendations. So as a board member, I would really like to see clear use of this data and the data that comes through the rest of the year to be able to support well-informed board decisions. In addition, I would like to say use this opportunity to have another round of kudos and congratulations to our students, our families, our teachers, our instructional assistants, all of our campus leadership, including our reading specialists and math specialists, just to, again, thank you for all of your hard work. Your efforts are seen and obviously being evidenced by these improved scores. And I'm very grateful for the work that you put in every day.
So I don't have any questions. I did want to say I appreciate the very blunt, here's the things we need to work on. It is refreshing because the thing is that we know we're doing really good things here in this district, and we know that our kids are growing and they're getting better and better all the time. And of course, we'd love to see 90% of our kids proficient, but it's unrealistic to think that's going to happen overnight. And for you to show us, hey, these are things we know we need to look at, I appreciate that so much. I feel that's very transparent to our community, that we understand we're not perfect. No one is. I also wanted to go back. You had a slide in there as one of our things that we were concerned with. We had 73, it might not have been 73%, sorry, my laptop died, but of our students stayed minimally proficient in one of our categories. But what is that? Like, I know you probably can't tell me this right now, but I'd love to know what the actual numbers of students that, like, how many students is that? That's 73% of the group.
I think it's slide 13. ELA, 72% of students remained minimally proficient from 7th to 8th grade. It's on the bottom of that slide.
I don't have it.
13.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can look it up pretty quick.
That's okay. I mean, I just, overall, yes, we see that number and that might be like, oh my gosh, that's scary, right? But I mean, I'll be honest, I've got a kid that's probably going to stay minimally proficient in one of those categories because she's special needs and might never get out of that. And that is okay with me. As a parent, I know that she's growing because I can see all the other things, right? So for me, I'd love to see what that actual number is of students that stayed there. And are they our special ed kids? Are they our gen ed kids? Like, who are these students that are staying in that category? Because that makes a difference in whether or not the realistic expectation would be that they would be moving up every year. But overall, I appreciate the data. It's great. I think it's a great jumping off point for where we are trying to go. It's going to transition nicely into our Litchfield learner and our strategic plan and setting goals for the future of where we want to go. So I appreciate all the time you put in. I know this is a lot of work, so we appreciate you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we are going to move on to our next discussion item, which is the performance objective number 3, strategic plan. This will also be by Dr. Davidson.
Madam President, members of the board, community guests, and fellow administrators, the presentation you'll see next drives the conversation around our upcoming strategic plan. And as you can see on the slide, that's who I am. And certainly Ms. Benjamin and Dr. Doozy have been big parts of this conversation as we prepare for the future work. Our current strategic plan is student success, people, services, finance, and resources. And we'll see after the slideshow and after the work in this spring, what those columns remain, those strategic areas. Currently, we have a district mission that talks about connecting, educating, empowering our LASD 79 family and community. And also we currently list out in our strategic plan some belief statements: academic excellence, well-being, teacher quality, being people first, and prepared for life, as well as communication. These are all things that we will touch inside this experience that we call the future strategic plan. Also, from a current reality perspective, you see that our plan was built in 2019 and does come to an end this spring, which is causing us to consider our future work. And I already shared those key 4 areas. Some other additional current realities: student success. These are those 4 areas just defined a little bit. I probably don't need to read them all word for word, but you can see there is some work that was done behind the 4 columns: student success, people, service, finances, and resources. And right now, I just to highlight to everybody, but when we come up and present, we always do try to connect the dots, making certain that we are still working inside the current reality of today's strategic plan. Future development for our strategic plan. Certainly our goal is to share Litchfield Learner tonight, get some feedback from you all, but move that process forward. Partner with a consultant, Mr. David LaRose. He's been doing some work with our administrative team over the last few years. And then consider the feedback from a variety of stakeholders, both virtual and in person, doing some on-site coaching, having some public meeting and workshops, and certainly involving our governing board with the desire to have and prepare, review, and vote upon our strategic plan in June of this spring, 2024. Wow, that went really fast.
That's okay.
It really isn't that complicated. We know. I'm looking for a slide that I thought was there. Well, I do have a graph that'll kind of highlight what that timeline looks like, and I can provide that in a Friday report. But our whole goal is to ensure that we follow a process and that we ultimately establish the why behind the work that we're moving forward in. So I'll stand for questions.
I was gonna say, I think you're only done with half the presentation. So this is, I think you just have the wrong one. The one that we have.
The one that I also have on my table is much longer. So I'm not certain what happened there, but
yeah. So
let me
slide
grab
14, for those of you that are following along, is the timeline that you're referring to. I think maybe just a shortened one got put onto that laptop. We see the real presentation. So.
We do. And so if you're comfortable, Governing Board, I will go back to my old school methodology and we'll go and use some of my paper here. Some of the things that we have, what I provided for those that might be able to follow along with the full presentation is I had evidence of impact from a student success perspective, highlighted in our student achievement, our many A-rated schools and district, students showing growth and proficiency in our state exams, as well as recently our junior high teams really being celebrated for their efforts, both in academics as well as in competitive sports. Regarding the column or the area of people, high retention rates of our school leaders, a staffing model that has supported the learning loss of our students and providing more supports at the site level, and also having the wellness resources available to be used to recognize staff. Evidence of impact in the service area, developing relationships with our community members and vendors to enhance our educational foundation, making certain that we have increased performance scores on the numerous surveys that we give to our partners, and that also that we have a tri-district pact that worked hard to celebrate our veterans, just as another example for evidence of impact in the service arena. And lastly, some evidence of impact in the finances and resources area. Currently, we will have some bond funds in the future to help with our capital projects and use strategically to maintain buildings. We know that the ESSER funds were strategically used to support recovery of learning loss of students, and also that numerous employees received a variety of pay raises as resources were available, either through additional compensation in a one-time scenario or as part of their regular salary and compensation. All right. Let's see. Nope. We're going to go to some ABCs. What I had in there were just some 3 bullets regarding strategic planning, and that we'll use the A is for auditing our current investments and return of investments. The B is building a compelling case for change. And I used that concept earlier, continuous state of improvement. And for me, it's just something to continue to make LESD 79 better. And the C is to connect all of our future actions to our strategic plan. 2 more slides that were available for our team regarding a resource that we'll probably use by Michael Full and All Systems Go. There were just some quotes that I provided just as that will be serving as guides for us. Some of the work we're going to be doing around having high expectations, that we need enthusiasm when we're doing this work, that we'll have a relentless focus, and having a guiding coalition, a group of individuals working together to ensure that we achieve the results that we plan for. And then that last slide was the product process to the product, the tentative timeline with the board support that we would begin moving forward on. And essentially we'd be starting this work in January. And as I said before, ending it in June. So a lot of fun and a lot of work in front of us. It'll certainly be something that we hope drives us for years to come. So with that said, I'll stand for questions, and sorry about the oddity here with the visual piece.
It's okay. Technological glitches
It
happen.
happens.
We're all good. Mr. Honak, did you have any questions or comments about this?
No, thank you.
Ms.
Yes, sir.
Clymer?
I don't have any specific questions. I'll just make one comment. I think what you have laid out here looks good. And in comparison, I think it takes the best parts of what we saw last time and introduces some new aspects, which I think are good. Now that we've been through this one time before, we have some best practices and some learnings that we should use moving forward. The only comment I'd like to say is, I think for the first time out last time, we did a very good job of integrating community feedback, staff feedback, even some students, parents, obviously the governing board, administrators. It felt in the moment, and I think looking back on it now, I still feel that way, that it was a labor of love, and there was a lot of people's input that went into that. I hope that is the expectation here. I know we have a timeline and we have a process, and looks like we have about 5 or 6 months to get that done, which should be plenty of time. I just want to make sure that that is maintained as a priority, because I think getting buy-in is often the hardest part. Yeah. But once you get that buy-in, the leaders have a much easier time actually creating expectations around this plan. lower down, right? And at the campus level and the classroom level, we can push things back to this document if we get initial buy-in. And the only way to do that is to make people a part of the process. So I encourage you to keep that in mind as we work through this, but otherwise it looks really good to me. Thank you.
Mr. Owens,
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Ms. Moran.
Yes, I think this looks great overall. When I look at the slide, the ABCs of strategic planning, I think that we as a board and as district leadership have done a good job in connecting the future actions to the strategic plan. As you stated earlier, all of our presentations, all of our decisions, we try to tie it back into, the 4 pillars that we currently have. I look forward to the new plan being more precise, maybe more detailed, less broad than what the current plan is, which I think will go into the second bullet point, the building a compelling case for change, be better. And I'm super interested in seeing the information behind the audit of our current investments and the return on investments. We've been asking for ROI information on some of our current systems for a long time. So I look forward to that being a part of this strategic planning as well, so we can determine what we're doing well and what we need to change in order to be better. So I'm super excited about this process, and I agree with Board Member Clymer. Getting stakeholder feedback and buy-in is critical. And we did a good job of that last time, including all different types of folks in the community in that process. And I know that our feeder district, our FRIA, did a good job with their strategic plan as well during that process of getting a lot of buy-in from the community. So I look forward to seeing all of this happen and take place.
I don't have any questions either. Our current strategic plan is how long I've been on the board, because it started right when I got on the board. So I'm excited to see this because the process started before I got on the board and then was finished when I got on. So I'm excited to be part of it from the beginning, right? So as a board, we want to be part of this process as much as our admin is. And I agree with everyone about having our community buy-in. I think that is one of the things that made it so successful when we did that before. So long as that's incorporated throughout all the steps, I am very excited to see where this goes.
Thank you, Ms. President and members of the board. I just wanted to bring us back real quick to the current reality of our mission and what we believe in. And I'm excited about our future as we consider the alignment perspective, because once we, as not just Litchfield Elementary School District employees, staff, but once our community members and our students are all on the same page around what our mission is, how we're going to do it, that will vision and then mission, but then also our beliefs. What do we really believe? And I think Ms. Benjamin here will present the Litchfield Learner, which will demonstrate how we received just a variety of data sets to talk about what we believe. So it's a great segue into her presentation, but excited about this future. So thank you.
Thank you. So next, we're going to move on to the Litchfield Learner, which is going to be presented by Ms. Benjamin. And I think Dr. Doozy is also helping with that.
Hello. Good evening, President Zaidema and the board. I am just switching my brain for a second. I've been being the secretary this evening, so it's taking me a second to get back into this role and not taking minutes. This evening, Dr. Doozy and I will be presenting the vision of the Litchfield Learner, and we had the immense pleasure to be able to facilitate the work with the committee that we were working with, along with Dr. Davidson. And it was powerful and exciting, and was just really engaging in the work that we want to do for the future. And what we're saying is we always are focusing on best practice, but this actually brought us to next practice. So it was neat to be able to have that opportunity with the next practice. This focused on the strategic plan alignment, and it aligns to all of the pillars: student success, people service, and finance resource, as well as the strategic plan, and is really the foundation for the strategic plan moving forward, which is what it should be all the time. It should be always about students. And so this really brought that to the forefront, which was really exciting. The Litchfield Learner is a concept similar to what you might hear as Portrait of Graduate. This is a repeat of information. I brought it to you back in, I think, September, but it really represents the shared vision of what the community's aspiration for all of our students are, but really truly, what should our students know and be able to do when they leave 8th grade, getting ready to go to high school? So we will be sharing how we gathered a lot of that data as well as what those outcomes are. This was the Litchfield Learner timeline that I had presented back in August or September, and we talked about forming a committee. That committee did begin in October. That committee helped with gathering questions for our surveys, and then also helped identify who do we need to survey. We knew some of the basics, but we were able to add additional that way. We also met in December and we went through the data. We identified themes and looked at all 8,000 different surveys and were able to get that information. And then we do have one more meeting in January, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. This wasn't a Friday update for you, I think 2 weeks ago. These were the surveys that were presented for our Litchfield Learner. We did the employee engagement, family engagement, student engagement. We had a structured stakeholder interview process. We also surveyed the high school feeder. We asked teachers for their input at the high school, as well as business and communities members. This information was about 8,300 survey data points that came back to us, which was wonderful. And we were able to pull the themes from each of these surveys. Do you want to add anything to this part? Okay. All right. So once we were able to do that, our committee of about 20, and this evening we do have Miss Stephanie Williams, who is present with us. She was a part of that committee, broke up and reviewed each of the themes to determine what were the top 6 priorities. We were hoping to get down to 5, but 6 makes it easier in case there's a discrepancy as we started to pull it all together. When we were rolling out what this was going to look like, Dr. Doozy and I were concerned. What if every single survey was different? How are we going to come to a consensus? That didn't happen. As you will see as we start to roll through this, there was a lot of similarities throughout all of the different data points that we were able to collect. So when we were looking at the employee engagement surveys, we looked at not only did they rank their top 7 skills or attributes that they wanted their Litchfield learner to have, they also had open-ended questions so that we could capture anything else that maybe we missed, because this was not just about certain words. It was about the feeling and the outcomes that they wanted to have. So we were also looking at all of those when we were pulling the themes. Employee engagement was resilience, emotional intelligence, problem solving, communication, responsibility, and teamwork. As we continued on, we did the same thing for our family engagement surveys, and their top priorities were critical thinking, growth mindset, also known as continuous learner, communication, emotional intelligence, collaboration, and leadership. We moved on to the student engagement. They chose growth mindset or continuous learner, emotional intelligence, resilient, collaboration skills and teamwork, trustworthy, and communication skills. The stakeholder structured feedback was a lesson plan that we provided to our principals, and we asked that they met with small groups of different individuals. So it was a student group, whether that was their NEHS or NJHS team. It could have been their leadership team on their campus with students. It could have been student council. We asked them to meet with site council or their PTO or PTAs. And we also asked that they do either their entire teacher staff team or their guiding coalition team to help with this. What we were hoping for this structured feedback was really to provide additional information besides just surveys, but also to get that qualitative information. And so the structured feedback came back with communication skills, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, problem solving, resilience, leadership, teamwork, collaboration skills. Are you starting to see a pattern? Our high school feeders, although we didn't get as many responses as we'd hoped for, I think we got about 35. Those teachers responded that they wanted their students to come to high school with resilience, emotional intelligence, problem solving, communication, responsibility, and teamwork. And our businesses and communities, these were people that we work closely with or that are part of our Rotary clubs, our Kiwanis clubs. We sent out this email to anyone who has some sort of business partnership with us or anyone who just supports us and volunteers in the district. The business and community partners said they want critical thinking, growth mindset and continuous learners, communication, emotional intelligence, collaboration, and leadership. So as you can see, there was a pattern that was being formed, which was awesome because we weren't sure that was going to happen. So our Litchfield learner, please do.
So one of the things to remember when we're talking about the Litchfield learner attributes is the foundation of those attributes are the skills of the state standards for literacy, math, science, and social studies. So I just wanted to note that our Litchfield learner includes the learning that's going to go on based on the state standards and these critical attributes so that they are prepared to go to 9th grade. So I just wanted to comment that.
And we'll actually have a piece of that in just a minute. So no, that's good. The committee recommendation looked at communication, character, teamwork, problem solving, and continuous learner. We had lots of different discussions around the words that were chosen, but they really wanted to make sure that it was kindergarten through 8th grade appropriate. And so rather than emotional intelligence, they felt like character fit that so that that was easier to explain to a kindergartner or first grader. The Litchfield Learner Committee also felt very strongly that growth mindset needed to have a part of something, but they liked the word continuous learner better than the growth mindset. So they felt very strongly that that needed to be a part of it, as well as leadership needed to be somehow built into several of the different areas. Leadership is part of character, it's part of teamwork. It could even be continuous learner and problem solver. So after we had identified those attributes and skills, we took this information to our administrative council. This is principals and directors. And we asked them to start defining, what do those things mean? So now we have words, but what does that mean? And so our leadership came up with definitions for each of these. Communication, Litchfield learners effectively convey their thoughts, feelings, ideas, and perspectives through reading, writing, listening, speaking, and digital communication, adapting to their audience. Character, Litchfield learners lead by thinking, feeling, and acting with integrity, honesty, and courage in all that they do. They show self-control, use sound judgment, and persevere when facing challenges. Teamwork, Litchfield learners work together by building relationships, making shared decisions, and learning from and contributing to the learning of others to achieve a common goal. Problem solving, Litchfield learners make decisions by evaluating information, making connections, asking questions, being flexible in their thinking, and taking initiative to turn their ideas into action. Many of these things we've seen by the robotics teams this evening. And the continuous learner, Litchfield learners overcome obstacles and recognize the need for continued growth through perseverance, seeking ways to improve, being resilient, taking risks, and accepting constructive feedback and correction. And finally, we want content experts. To ensure our Litchfield learners promote to high school with the knowledge and skills to be successful as educators, we anchor all that we do in the Arizona College and Career Ready academic standards. We focus on standards mastery and disciplinary literacy so that our students can read, write, and think critically within the context of each academic area. As we were talking with our committee, one of the big things was making sure that we were focusing on the standards and working that we're not taking away from literacy, math, science, and social studies. Even the arts and PE have standards as well, that we're not taking away from that this is just an added value to it. And so the content experts are the foundation of the work that we're doing. This all leads into our growing graduates, which is the work that we're doing with Agua Fria. We are working closely hand in hand with Agua Fria. We have offered fast track math courses for several years now, but we would like to figure out how else can we support our students who are ready for that fast track. And those students who aren't, how can we make sure that they're prepared for 9th grade leaving our district? And so making sure that we are working closely hand in hand with the high school district to make sure our students are prepared and ready to go. So our next steps, our Litchfield Learner Committee is going to meet in January to work through the visual representation. Every time you see a portrait of a grad, it's usually a visual that students can understand. You see the visual, it's a marketing, it's a branding. And what our committee had decided to do, actually, it was Miss Stephanie Williams' idea, she wanted students to have a voice in this. And so we've taken this back to our art teachers and asked them to share with their students what this all is, and if they can come up with some visual representations of what the Litchfield learner will be. So we are hoping that in January, we're going to have some really awesome ideas from our students that we can continue to build on the work that we've started. We've also started the steps with action steps and I can statements with our principals. The action steps are maybe what are you already doing on your campus that meets those 5 skills or attributes, or what are you hoping to do? Because that's where we're going to start to build specific next steps, whether that is problem solving, that every campus might have a robotics club. I don't know that that's going to be one of them, but it would be something like that, where what are we going to be investing in the first year to make sure that this is meeting our students' needs? It may be at a K2, 3, 5, 6, 8 level. We may break it up by that. It's really going to be dependent on moving forward and our next steps. We're also, we do have I can statements that have been started by our administrative team. And so we know what we're looking for in those next things. So those are going to be ironed out in the next few months. And then we will be creating future lesson plans, goal setting activities that students can be utilizing across the district. And Dr. Doozy and I are here for any questions that you might have.
Mr. Honak, did you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your efforts and everything, but I have bad news for you. This is utterly and completely flawed. There are 2 groups here, group 2 and group 6 in the survey are the only ones that count. They're parents, families, and business and community. And if you look at what their goals and what they want, they're both identical. They're what schools are for. Number 1, critical thinking. Number 2, growth mindset, continuous learner. Those all factor into basically academics. You know, learning math, learning whatever is learning logical thinking, critical thinking. Every parent knows their kid needs to be smart. And to be smart, you need critical thinking, okay? They got to at least be able to get through algebra to be able to go figure out how to drive a truck or how to whatever work efficiently or plan their finances or succeed in life. And it's interesting that family, if you look at the 6 bullet points, you scroll down to business and community, identical. An employer needs employees that have critical thinking, number 1. Whether they got bad breath, whether their personality is quirky, whatever, they are going to be able to fly the plane or do the operation or produce and be a valuable contribution to society. All this stuff with emotional intelligence and collaboration and leadership is at the bottom. You know, this is bull crap. And to sit here and go say, what is that? The teachers, what they want to teach, that's kind of like asking the prison inmates, you know, what they want or what they would like to do. The teachers in this district, due to this board and all this baloney strategic plan, excellence, let's get real here. Litchfield Elementary is academically failing, okay? Anybody who gets 50% or at anything is an F. Anywhere, in anything. If you do less than 50%, it's a F. And we're sitting here going A+, oh, la-da-da-da-da, and look, we went up 2 percentage points or whatever. But guys, I know this is Arizona, and I'm beginning to realize that people in Arizona, they don't even know what education means because they've never been to a school, a real school somewhere. So, you know, where this is just wouldn't even happen. So I'm just sitting here looking, this is great intentions, and we got a new administration, and I'm very proud of the new administration and wants to do a lot of things, but this is just a continuation of the same bull crap that these people over here that voted against improving, having it in the teacher contracts, improve academics. They didn't want to hear the word. They voted against, Mr. Owen, I presented something in some statistically, the biggest lever to improve academics is parental involvement. Where are the parents? I don't see anybody out here. Anybody ever come to a board meeting anymore around here after they beat the crap out of me and denied my First Amendment rights every time I try to bring up something that makes sense? By the way, I'm resigning, and I'm not only that, I'm moving away from this hellhole called Litchfield, from what they've done to me, and we'll get to that a little in a few minutes with my board member report. But you've done a beautiful job of demonstrating why Litchfield isn't doing its job. And Carter, you can do real well going along, but if you want to do really well and you want to be Carter Davidson in the national news or something like that in a good way, you can do it. The money's there, the people are there, whatever. You just got to get the parents out there, because every parent, I don't care if they're illegal alien that just smuggled across the border, they came up here for some reason. I don't care if they're a cartel member dealing drugs. They still want their kids to be able to have a better life than they do. And they know that their kids don't need, all this emotional intelligence and all this bull crap. They need to be smart. They need to be smart. And I don't care what kind of a job you do out there, whether you're working any kind of a job, it takes brains to pound nails in, or actually to run a nail gun, honestly. It takes some logical thinking and brains. And that's why if you look at the families, they all are identical. Number one, critical thinking. Number two, growth. Get a clue, guys. You got the data right here, but you're sitting there and going, oh, well, that's not as important as what us teachers think. You guys got a job to do, and you've long ago forgotten what the job is. Long ago. Take this thing back. You got the data here. The public is paying you, but they're moving to other charter schools that get it, that people want an education. This is a dying breed around here, okay? You got your thing passed, mainly because I just kept my mouth shut, okay? Because you got 91 votes out of 9,000 votes. I got elected by 22,000 votes. Believe me, if I went out there and made a little bit of noise, you wouldn't have got your 91 votes and your, thing. But you know what? Out of grace, okay, I didn't want to hamper you guys, in the future. Okay, so in my life, I got plenty to do, and I'm a positive guy. I'm a hopeful guy. Or at least I was in a lot of ways. But you got everything right here. It's staring you in the face. And then you're going on with all this bull crap, emotional, intelligent, whatever. Look at the people that count, the future of these kids. They're not going to be in a classroom in the future. They're going to be in the real world. You guys going to go run out and go help all these kids when they're out there in the world trying to survive? No. So this is, you got everything there. The school district, you got everything there. Beautiful schools, people. You got parents that you've alienated. You've just basically left them out for the egos of a few deranged, people. And you've chased all the parents away, and most of the parents are barely surviving. They got to send their kids somewhere. And that's what's going on here. But the people that have a brain and are thinking about it, they're going to Great Hearts any damn where. Or a lot of the people that were in this room when I got on the board and the community got a little bit activated, they moved away. They moved away. I can give you the names. I mean, they've just moved away. They've just said, forget it. They had signs held up, not true, by board members. They've been saying that what I said was not true, whatever. So I think I made my comment. You got a beautiful thing here, ladies. You did a great job. Why are you blowing it? You don't need to blow it. It's just making a choice. Parents are clear. employers are clear. That's the community, not the employees around here and not the students. They're kids. They can't even vote. Why? Because they don't know nothing yet. They're supposed to be taught and they're not getting taught. They're getting taught garbage, wasting time. Thank you.
Ms. Clymer.
I think I only have one question. Thank you for your time and energy putting this together. I think it's starting to take shape. You've been talking about it for many months, and I know you've been working a lot behind the scenes, but it's starting to take shape. So thank you for giving us, kind of the breadcrumbs as you go through this process. It's getting really exciting. My question is, and this is probably will come more to life as the visual part comes of this. So you might just tell me to wait and ask this question in another month or two, but if I'm just starting in the district, part of this Litchfield learner process, or at least how I understand it so far, is that, this is applicable to, whether you're a kindergartner and you're starting out all the way through or preschool or all the way through the 8th grade. So if I'm kindergarten for 2nd grade and I'm just starting out here at Litchfield, how does this come to life for me? Like, what are the expectations of younger kiddos, and how do you start to say, okay, by the time they're in 8th grade, they need to be doing X, Y, and Z, and that's very clearly laid out here. So I appreciate that. But if I'm a parent on the younger end, how do I start to, make sense of what that looks like at the younger ages so that I can make sure that we're following along to get to that 8th grade point where I know my child is going to leave here with the success points that we've identified?
Absolutely. So that work is to be done still, and that's the I can statement. So specific to the grade level of what things are already in place that is reinforcing these skills and what things need to be added. And that will become part of the I can statement. And so when you look at these critical attributes and traits, we did consider each stakeholder's, feedback. And so we tried to encompass, those traits. So when you're looking at, let's say, for example, a kindergartner, problem solving, well, they may very well be how they're critically thinking through a problem or how they're problem solving with a peer. With growth mindset and continuous learner, those are also very similar terms. So we wanted to pick continuous learner for the very reason that you just said, is it has more meaning for kids that are smaller versus growth mindset. Now, that does not mean we will not teach kids what growth mindset means, because that was really important to the committee, is to use student-friendly language, but making sure that we embed things like Governing Board Honak just mentioned, that problem solving, critical thinking is part of problem solving, and growth mindset is part of being committed as a continuous learner. So those I can statements will define at each grade level what students will be accomplishing as they build their Litchfield learner skills.
Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful for parents too, to understand where should my child be, what, kind of standards along the way are they meeting or not meeting, and potentially give some talking points or discussion points to teachers, administrators, et cetera, if they're not meeting those standards along the way. So anyway, interesting. Thank you.
Mr. Owens.
I have no comments. Thank you for the time.
Ms. Moran.
Yeah, I am really excited about the top level recommendations, the communication, character, teamwork, problem solving, and continuous learner. As a small business owner, as a parent, as someone who's been in this district a long time, I think the process that you went through to get the stakeholder feedback, including from our teachers, who I think know a lot about what students need to be successful. I think that you had some common themes that rose to the top, means that this process was done well, and it's not surprising that there's a lot of those commonalities. So I look forward to those ideas being refined. I know that one of the things that the board has expressed in the past is the idea of more consistency across our campuses. And I think that refining this Litchfield learner will help to allow those campuses who have separate mottos or separate chants or whatever that might look like, or even our campuses that have a special program like Leader in Me, to marry those existing programs up with the Litchfield learners so that we're all in alignment and we can increase some of those consistencies. So I think this is great work and I look forward to the next steps.
And Moran stole the words right out of my mouth about the consistency part. I do feel like this is what we need to kind of get that consistency across the district, which is something we've been looking for a long time. And I feel like we're going to get there. I'm very excited with the progress you guys have made. I can't wait to see what it looks like in the end. As a parent of kids that have gone through here and are in here right now, I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys have put into this and are going to continue to do.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to our reports. We will start with Dr. Davidson.
All right. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, community, and so forth. I wanted to start off by just simply telling our children, our kids, thank you. Thank you for their work, because without them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have jobs, and certainly we wouldn't have the ability to talk about all the things we're doing on their behalf. So on behalf of our governing board showcases, our apple pie tours, and we're just seeing some amazing things in our classrooms, and those things are supported by the staff. One of the things I just wanted to highlight for those that aren't in our schools is the way we are using data and the way we're using our teams to meet the individualized needs of our kids. And we see that every time we're out there. It's happening in all of our schools, and just a big shout out to those that are doing that hard work, and that starts with the children. Also wanted to highlight just some great things that are happening on behalf of our community partners. I think we may have talked about it last time, but I can't remember. Kevin Grant, a business member in our community, working with other partners to give over 1,000 turkeys to our staff and our families in need. That was awesome. That happened during Thanksgiving time. Our Rotary of Pebble Creek, working hard right now to collect books and food and support our families of our inside our communities. The Kiwanis Club, working with our students and looking to really provide a full-fledged Christmas for 50 families across our district. So we're thankful for their work. Yeah, we most recently, coming on Thursday, have an event where the Kiwanis group celebrates our students with cognitive disabilities. That'll be a celebration in the morning at Corte Sierra, so we're excited for that event. And lastly, just even today, and I don't know if it's on social media yet, our master storyteller, Sam over here, we had the chance to go and see Arizona Cardinals, and there some of their team members come to Belen Soto and highlight literacy with our students through grades 1 through 5. And thank you, Ms. Frazier, for that work. It's always fun to see Big Red in our school. Lastly, just a shout out to our was really not lastly, but a shout out to many of our team members here. For those that aren't fully engaged, I just want to say a few words around the work that's happening. Boundary work, you heard the Litchfield learner work, budget and staffing, storytelling across all sorts of social media platforms, accountability, Title IX work, working with our families, open enrollment, curriculum, right? Some of these, there's some heavy things happening in our district right now as we think about our future. So I just want to say thank you to our team over here for their work, because it's a lot of work. And we wouldn't be here without them either. Lastly, a celebration to Jen Larson, our English language learner coordinator, out there representing LESD 79 with the Department of Education and highlighting all the best practices that are happening on behalf of those children. And I keep saying lastly, this is my third lastly, but it is for real. Just reminding our team, our community, to stay safe and healthy. We do have a big winter break coming up in just a few short weeks. And my hope is for everybody that they get some quality rest and get ready to tear it up in January. So thank you very much, Governing Board.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson. We are going to move on to our reports from the governing board members. We will start with Mr. Honak.
Thank you. And for people that don't know, the governing board report, it's not agendized as long as it's current events, and other board members don't comment or discuss or whatever. You know, in my case, they shouldn't interrupt. That's what they seem to always want to do. My current event is not just about my very soon resigning from the Litchfield board in the very near future. but having to move away from this community due to the illegal behavior of various members of the governing board. Litchfield is a fantastic district, potentially, except it's in another dimension where it forgot what its purpose is, to educate children. For instance, as we saw, about 2/3 of its graduates, that's all I look at as the end product, the 8th graders, about 2/3 of its graduates are deficient at math and only about half in everything else. Litchfield is in another dimension because the board thinks it's okay to be criminals who deny constitutional rights of free speech to any board member who does not agree with their woke agenda. For instance, the board's equity statement says that they, quote, value, and they list, among other things, sexual orientation of elementary school children and students. Go read it. It's on your website. Call me old-fashioned, but this is pedophilia grooming, plain and simple. And a whole lot of parents will not send their kids to school. They're just homeschooling. They don't even need to go to Great Hearts or somewhere else. It's a fact that the human brain is limitless. We see it all over in history. I could brag about in my families. I had high hopes to get Litchfield to hook into that potential, amazing potential, the human mind with kids. From the time I was elected to the board by 22,000 Litchfield citizens, board members have continually deprived me of my right to speak with false claims that I was speaking about matters not on the agenda. They lied over and over to play their cancel culture games, to deny reality so they could glorify their fantasy of promoting hate and perversion of children. At the March 3rd, 2021 YouTube meeting, I'm giving that as a reference because you can go LASD 79 on YouTube, March 3rd, 2021, and see for yourself. They voted against requiring teachers to even try to improve Litchfield's dismal academics. And by the way, tonight they voted again for a teacher's contract that doesn't have anything about improving academics. Do I remind everybody about the 2/3 not being, et cetera? At the June 8th, 2023 YouTube, I say YouTube meeting, a meeting on YouTube, you can go look it up. When they were presented with a scientifically proven method to improve academics, they rejected the proposals and one member claimed that Litchfield was already doing everything right with academics. 2/3 of its graduates not proficient in math. This is what they're doing in this BS strategic plan and all that. Rather than consult the public about their equity statement, at the December 1, 2020 meeting, again, you can see the YouTube, they relied on the advice of a person, the big expert that guided the whole thing with the equity statement, a person who transgendered her 9-year-old child. Who transgendered a 9-year-old child? Why is sex being an issue with a 9-year-old? It sounds like teaching, quote, emotional intelligence, which the parents and community, which we just saw in a survey, rate last, is an open door to abuse children. This is the Litchfield equity statement, and you guys can't hire teachers and get enough teachers' assistants to stay here more than 3 weeks. 3 board members violated the open meeting law, and 1 board member has multiple open meeting law violations. But most of all, these board members violated the United States Constitution. 18 USC section 42, a crime for someone, such as a board member, acting under color of law, being on the board, to willfully deprive a person, another board member, such as myself, of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. I said it earlier, the board just voted again for teacher's contract. It does not even require item 8.3 to even try to improve academics. And again, I don't need to mention the proficiency. Litchfield has cancer from which it can never survive unless these board members resign. Members of the public have come up and said that. They're giving up. Litchfield needs a board that understands that children need an education instead of being used for trendy experiments, which are proven to be dangerous and harmful to children. Thank you very much. I'm not a quitter. I never have been. I've done all my life, done things that people said were impossible. But here, I quit. There's no chance. And I've been spending the last 3 months in hell, moving my complicated life, having to build another building, whatever, because of what these guys have done to me. So that's my report. And I think I'm going to pack up and leave, because if I have to hear one of the board members quoting her inane, stupid lyrics from songs again, I think I might make a mess on this console here. So I'm going to miss you guys, every one of you, and I wish you the best. I really do.
Ms.
I'm
Clymer.
done.
Ms. Clymer.
Great, I'll try and keep mine short and sweet. I want to say thank you to Dreaming Summit in Rancho Santa Fe for hosting us in our latest school board showcases. Principal Hill, Principal Zuniga, I know it takes a lot of time and effort to put those presentations together, and we do really appreciate it. One of the best parts of our job here at as governing board members, I think, is being on campus and seeing the kids and seeing the initiatives and the strategies that are determined up here actually in action, working, and teachers and staff working together to make this a better place for our kids. So thank you both very much specifically, but your entire campus and staff was amazing. Also, I wanted to echo what Dr. Davidson said around all of the work that is being done. So another thing that we did since the last meeting was our special meeting around boundaries and our public hearing. It's just one of the many things. When I started sort of making that list, you were ticking it off yourself. I was like, wow, there was like twice as many things as I even remembered doing that. So, you know, a enormous budgeting process that's going to go on next spring. I say next spring. I know, Michael, you've been working on this probably 24/7 for the last 6 months. You know, we have some really important decisions, and I look forward to the recommendations of this administration, because I think what I've seen to date over the last, 5 or 6 months since this new group of people have come together has been nothing short of impressive. You're analyzing what's going on. You're looking at the data. You are supplying us with transparent information in terms of areas of focus and things that we're not doing well. And I have confidence you're going to figure out how to create a budget that not only works for us in our community, but also continues the academic progress that we've been making over the last several years. I also just wanted to say thank you for the folks that have been working on the boundaries. I've had some feedback from our schools and families and things like that, just as a board member. And I'm hopeful, again, that we'll be able to come to a consensus there. That's what is best for students and what is going to work for our community over the next several years as we experience, heavy growth on the west side. So I think there's only good things to come next year. So with that, I'll end. Just want to say I hope everybody enjoys their winter break. Happy holidays, and please spend some time with family and do the things that are most important, because we will have plenty of work to get back to in January. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Owens?
Went to a couple of school showcases. Love those. Those are one of the highlights of my role on the school board, just talking to the principal, administration, and staff, and then seeing the students. So thoroughly enjoyed those, but based on time and my health, I'm going to wrap up. So hope everybody has a great holiday.
Ms. Moran, you're up, and I can't wait to hear your song lyrics.
Thank you. Yes, for my board report this month, I was able to attend 3 school showcases, Dreaming Summit, Rancho Santa Fe, and Verrado Middle School. So thank you to Principals Hill, Zuniga, and Paduano, as well as all of the teachers, support staff, and students for these informative visits. I echo what Board Member Owens and Board Member Clymer said. These are super informative and very important to us as board members to actually visit the campuses and see what's happening so that we can get evidence for ourselves. I was also able to attend the Thanksgiving feast at Western Sky Middle School. Thank you to all the volunteers who helped to make this day of fellowship a big success. It was great to see so many families in attendance on campus. I also attended a few other events, the Boundary Parent Night at Litchfield Elementary School on November 27th, the special meeting on November 28th, and I was also able to attend the Promoting 8th Grade event that was held by the Agua Fria Union High School District at Wigwam Creek, which was very informative, not only to me as a parent of an 8th grader who's promoting, but also as a board member to see a sneak peek of what Agua Fria is doing, and that's going to hopefully marry into our Litchfield Learner and their academies process and everything. So that was great to see the great things that Agua Fria High School is doing as well. I also attended the Educational Foundation meeting as the board liaison. Please mark your calendars for the spring golf tournament on Friday, April 5th to be held at the Wigwam Golf Course. I also was able to attend a couple of holiday events, which are absolutely my favorites and fun. So first of all, I was able to go to the Western Sky Middle School band concert. Thank you to Mr. Milhone for your dedication to music education. The students put on a wonderful and festive performance. Super fun. But my absolute favorite was being in the Christmas in the Park parade with my fellow board members, President Zaidama and board member Clymer. We were able to take our second annual trip up Old Litchfield Road, throwing candy to the excited community members, young and old. And it was so amazing to see and experience the support, the smiling faces, the waves, and the cheers from our community, cheering on our schools, our success, and just celebrating the season. So I'm going to close my board report with lyrics from the classic song by Al Green and Annie Lennox, Put a Little Love in Your Heart. Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. If you want the world to know, we won't let hatred grow. Put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Dedicated with love to Board Member Honak.
Okay, my turn. I keep following up behind her every time. So this has been not as busy, but yet still lots and lots of things happening. With the impending Mr. Honak resigning, as he told us in September that he would be leaving by the end of the year, I have this past month been in contact with our attorney about what that process looks like. So Mr. Honak will need to send a letter to all the board members and also to the state, the Secretary of State and Steve Watson's office to officially resign from the board. So until that happens, he is still on the board. But I was in contact with Steve Watson's office as well as far as our next steps for them and making sure that we are prepared and ready to go. We have a lot of really important decisions that we'll be making as a board, and I want to make sure that we get a very active member on our board so that we have a full board as soon as possible to help us in making those important decisions we will be doing this next year. So I did start that conversation with Steve Watson's office as well. I also attended all the showcases at Dreaming Summit, Rancho Santa Fe, and Verrado Middle School. Dreaming Summit had one of the students there that was just the funniest kid I've ever met. You never know what you're going to hear from them. They're students and they're very candid, and so they were really funny. Rancho Santa Fe, Vanessa Zuniga is a cheerleader through and through, and you see that everywhere on her campus and her whole everything you do. Like, it ran long, but it was okay. We were all happy to be there and hear from everybody and go into every single classroom. And Verrado Middle School, I love what's happening over at Verrado Middle School. We got a little bit of sadness. I felt like some hate coming towards them when we had our boundaries conversation. And I don't think that people truly mean that. It was emotions, right? And being scared of what might happen with their campus and their kids. So then some negative things might have been said about Verrado Middle School, but Verrado Middle School is doing amazing and their kids are great. They said their discipline is super low out there for the most part. And I just loved everything they had to say. We didn't talk to students as much there, but that's okay. We did get to go and interact with some little preschoolers because they are a campus that, because Verrado Elementary School is so full, they have the preschool over at Verrado Middle School. And anybody that goes to school tours knows that the youngers are my love. And so I was very excited to just get to go hang out with some little preschool kids in between going into our middle school classrooms, where the students were fantastic. They were not thrown off. In any of the classrooms we walked in, they just stayed right on task. The teachers were not distracted at all by us being there. And there's a lot of us that come in, right? So it could be very disruptive, but for the most part, they stayed on task. They knew what they were doing. They kept moving forward in their lessons. And so that's a true testament to how well our teachers are doing in their classrooms and their classroom management and keeping their kids engaged in what they're doing in their lessons. I also attended our special meeting regarding boundaries, which is a sensitive and tough subject. I'm looking forward to, I guess, the meeting next week on Tuesday to see what progress we've made from the feedback we've gotten and what changes might be coming forward to that. It's going to be a hard conversation, but I feel confident that the 4 board members you have that are active in what we're doing are going to be able to come up with a solution that is going to work for everybody the best we can. Lastly, I was able to participate in the Christmas in the Park parade. It was fantastic. It's so fun. I'm so glad that we started that last year. I look forward to doing it again next year, and I hope this is a tradition that just keeps going years and years after I'm not here. It's really fun. Ms. Moran gets us a really cool car. I don't know anything about cars, but it's a pretty old car, and we get to sit on the back and throw candy, and no one is unhappy with us there, probably because we're throwing candy at them. And even like Ms. Moran said, not just the littles, you got the older people over there being like, throw to me too, throw to me too. So they want their candy as well. I'm sorry, I'm going to pull a Dr. Davidson. I got to do my plug for volunteering. My volunteering this month, I was able to, since our last meeting, I volunteered at Barbara Roby's Thanksgiving feast and also White Tank's Thanksgiving feast. White Tank's was really special because it's the first time they've really had a place where they could go and sit with their families, and they did a fantastic job setting it up, having the tables decorated beautifully for the families to come in with their students. I'm so glad that I got to be a part of that and watch that happen. The families were super excited to be there with their kiddos. The kiddos were anxiously waiting for mom or dad, grandma, whoever was coming, because some of them had lots of family members that came with them. And so it was really, really special for them. And it just made me even more happy that we have that space for those kids. But probably Barbara Roby was my favorite of all the schools because I volunteered at 4 different schools. And Barbara Roby, I think, was by far my favorite because of their volunteers. They had the ladies from Mutts on a Mission there, and they are hysterical. They had me laughing the entire time that I was there. They were just so fun to be with, and they were excited to see the kids, and all the kids that know them and work with them are coming and running up and giving them hugs and introducing them to family. So it was a really cool experience. Volunteering is so important. Today I spent the whole day at Rancho in their Santa shop, another way to volunteer. But I encourage our community members to get out and volunteer in our schools. There's lots of ways to do it. Verrado Middle School, actually, one of the things they talked about is how they've partnered with a lot of people from Victory, and how they've gotten a lot of those people to come over and share their expertise in areas that they have, and then the students get to learn from them. And we have a lot of community members. We have Pebble Creek. I'd love to see more Pebble Creek people come and volunteer in our schools and get involved, because I think the best way for people to know what's going on in our schools is by coming and seeing it with their own eyes. And what better way to do that than come and volunteer with kids? There's nothing to boost your morale like working with little kindergartners. If you're unhappy, you can't be unhappy after working with them. So I highly encourage our community to do that. And with that, I will wrap up this report, but thank you so much, guys. We also have our reports from our administrators that are in there. As a side note, I like to see, like, we had a couple of differences in our principal reports. So some did their newsletters, and some had the regular reports we had before. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see the differences in those. I know we've been doing that a little bit, but really digging into that and seeing that, like, what information is shared with parents versus what information just they've shared with the board before. But I do like the overall way we're doing that. And thank you to everybody for putting those together. Thank you to everybody that do those really nice newsletters for your family. I understand that takes time to do, and we appreciate all that you do to get that information out to everyone of what you're doing. It's important that we brag about our good things we're doing and share with our families. Here's what's happening. It's sharing our story. I think that's what Sam says, right? It's a very important part of the process of having people be involved in what we're doing and engaged and wanting to continue with us doing what we're doing. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I think Ryan was trying to say it.
Oh, I apologize, Ryan. I'm sorry. I know you weren't.
Ryan,
I'll second. It doesn't matter. I'm just ready to go to bed.
Okay, I have a first and a second. I will call for the vote. Ms. Clymer?
Yay.
Mr. Honak's not here. Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
also yay, motion passes.